subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
So he let AC serve as a supporter. Now it seems that with AC's strength, I am afraid she can only serve as a supporter. Although LV5 is a level only available to first-line adventurers. But in front of LV7, I really can only play support. Lafia on the side was completely speechless. She just felt like she was finished. That Mr. Su Mo is strong and gets stronger very quickly. Unlike myself, who is still so weak after so long and can't stand alone. Isn't it natural that Miss Ace is interested in him? Coupled with what he said before. She felt that Miss Ace must have fallen, and 8 cows would not be able to pull her back. In long silence, everyone finally woke up from the shock. Finn thought for a moment and announced loudly. Since Mr. Su Mo is a LV7 adventurer, since he has not announced it to the public, we must not reveal it. Everyone listen up, this matter is not allowed to be spread outside. Although according to the rules of the guild, the level cannot be concealed. But they were not stupid enough to report Su Mo. It was obvious that this strong man had a good relationship with Ace from his own family. If I and others spread this secret, someone will report Mr. Su Mo. Not to mention how to calm down the anger of a LV7 level powerhouse. They couldn't pass the simple Ace level. Those present were all core members of the Loki Familia, so they naturally knew the stakes. They all nodded and said they would keep it in mind. Finn glanced at the others reassuringly, and then turned his attention to Tiona. Especially you, Tiona. Don't let anything slip. I won't. Tiona immediately argued dissatisfiedly. Captain, why are you only talking about me? Am I the kind of person who likes to talk too much and then spread information blindly? Aren't you? Fine looked at her like this. Even if you are my sister, I will beat you up. Tiona immediately raised her fist. Everyone immediately laughed loudly. Although Tiona seems careless, she actually knows the importance of it. If you know it's confidential information, you won't say anything nonsense. Everyone knew this and was just teasing her on purpose. 135, what you think is a tree-lined path, is actually already busy with traffic. After everyone finished teasing, Tiona looked at Finn. Captain, are we still looking for AC and the others? It can now be judged that AC and Mr. Su Mo have finished defeating the LV7 floor master and have gone deeper. I just don't know which level they are on now. Finn immediately shook his head after hearing Tiona's words. No, the next depth is too dangerous for us. Although the tricky boss, the floor master, is gone. But if you continue to go deeper, you will enter the 50th floor, which is full of LV5 level monsters. With the supplies they currently carry, it would be too difficult to go deeper. Moreover, it is not consistent with the progress of their plan. What's more, AC and Mr. Su Mo are most likely not on the 51st floor, but deeper. Even if they continue to explore, it's not always possible to find 2 people. And with the LV7 level of combat power displayed by Su Mo, there should be no danger in the floors below. Therefore, there is no need to go further. After everyone takes a rest, we will return immediately. Finn made his decision. Chapter 146. The other adventurers also understood his concerns and nodded to obey. During the break, Diana, who was standing by, cast an envious look at the entrance to the 50th floor. I envy Ace-chan so much. We have to travel for a long time to reach this floor. Ace-chan followed Mr. Su Mo and went in right away. I just don't know how many floors they are on. Could it be deeper than the floors our Loki Familia have traveled to? She sighed innocently. The members of the Loki Familia were stunned when they heard this. Their faces became complicated. They have always been proud of their large-scale expeditions. They make a name for themselves by constantly exploring deeper dungeons. For them, exploring the depths of the dungeons is the glory of their Loki Familia. But after hearing Diana's words, they realized one thing, that is, the deep layers that they thought had never been visited by anyone. Could it be that they have already been explored by someone? The tree-lined path you thought was actually already busy. If that was the case, then wouldn't the glory they had always been so proud to be discounted? Maybe they had always thought that this was the first floor they had developed. In fact, it had been visited countless times by strong men, like Mr. Su Mo. They themselves were ignorant and complacent. Thinking of this, let alone ordinary adventurers, even veterans like Lavilia couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. If the floor that they had worked so hard to reach could be freely accessed by others, then what was the point of them pursuing to continue exploring the dungeon? Just as everyone was looking a little depressed, Finn noticed this and immediately spoke to boost morale. Mr. Su Mo may have surpassed the floor we explored, or he may not. But it doesn't matter. As adventurers, we explore the dungeon not only to make our family famous, but also to explore the unknown. The depths of the dungeon, whether or not they have been explored by Mr. Su Mo, are mysterious and unknown places for us. Therefore, everyone does not have to doubt whether their efforts are useful. Even if Mr. Su Mo has explored the 100th floor of the dungeon, it cannot erase our yearning for the deeper dungeons. After these words, the fighting spirit of the crowd has been restored a lot. Yes, even if Mr. Su Mo has entered and exited thousands of times. For them, the deeper floors are also unfamiliar places. So, why bother about how many floors Su Mo has explored? Further progress brings further joy. Thinking of this, they feel that they can accept a lot. After resting for about 10 minutes, everyone's energy has also recovered. Seeing this, Finn also directed them and prepared to return. At this time, Bert, the werewolf walking in front, heard something. He stopped immediately. His pupils narrowed and he looked in the direction of the passage leading to the 50th floor. There is movement, he warned everyone. Werewolves have excellent sense of smell and hearing. So, when everyone heard his words, they immediately became alert. They set up their positions and looked at the passage in full alert. Only Lafia, who was only LV3, was protected in the middle. She swallowed her saliva and looked in the direction of the passage nervously. A few seconds later, whoosh, the sound of the wind sounded like an eagle flapping its wings. Even ordinary adventurers could hear it. Then, very quickly, two figures appeared from the sky above the passage. A pair of handsome men and beautiful women with the wings of wind, who looked like gods, flew together. Then, it seemed that they saw the people of Loki's family on this side. The wings behind the two flapped, leading them to land on the ground in an elegant and neat manner. Such a scene was so beautiful that many young adventurers were dazzled. Is this an angel? The cat-eared girl Anna Kitty, a second-tier adventurer of Loki's family, couldn't help but speak out. Ah, Miss Ace. Lafia recognized the identity of the blonde girl flying in the air at first sight. However, even so, she was completely fascinated by the figure of Miss Ace with transparent wind wings on her back. That posture was too slender and beautiful. Compared to an angel, it was more like a fairy dancing in the flowers. And Su Mo beside Miss Ace, although Lafia was unwilling to admit it. But this Mr. Su Mo's clean and neat posture and equally handsome appearance. Standing with Ace, they are indeed very well matched. These are two people with god-level looks, even though Lafia was reluctant to see Ace get too close to other men. At this moment, she couldn't help but have an idea in her mind. They are a perfect match. How could a monster like me object? For a moment, she felt that Miss AC had left her and was going to live with Su Mo suddenly. Her heart was filled with tears. Wow, Miss AC. Wow, her Miss AC. Lafia, with tears streaming down her face. Suddenly, she heard a tick. What? Did she lose control and cry? Realizing this, she hurriedly wiped the corners of her eyes. No, I have to be strong. I can't be too fragile. I must bless Miss AC. Thinking of this, Lafia found that her eyes were only slightly wet. Zero, please give flowers. Zero, it didn't reach the point of crying. In other words, I didn't cry. What was the sound just now? With doubts, she subconsciously looked at the werewolf Bert not far away. Everything was normal, nothing was found. But when she looked down, she immediately saw that there were spots of watermarks on the soil under Bert's feet. Lafia immediately realized. It turned out that she was not the worst. Even if Miss AC has a lover, as a girl, I still have a chance to be close to her. However, if it is a man, there is no chance at all. Although there was no chance in the first place. But now, it is officially declared impossible. It is equivalent to the last ray of hope is gone. No wonder this guy who usually speaks badly didn't speak for a long time. Someone shed tears. Someone broke down. Lafia knew who it was, but she didn't dare to say it. After a glance, she immediately looked away. She shifted her attention to AC again. It's strange. Originally, she was so sad and angry that she almost cried. But after seeing the miserable appearance of a certain werewolf, she suddenly felt that she was okay. Chapter 147 perhaps. Human happiness is to enjoy witnessing the misfortune of others. Other side. The ones who noticed were AC and Su Mo Riveria. Finn and others all breathed a sigh of relief. Although he knew that Su Mo was powerful, seeing AC back without any injuries still made people feel relieved. We were about to leave. Unexpectedly, we happened to meet AC and Mr. Su Mo returning. Finn took a step forward and exchanged pleasantries. Riveria looked at Ace with some curiosity. What were the wings just now? She didn't remember that Ace had learned the magic of flying. However, looking at the way Ace controlled the wind wings just now, she was very skilled, and it didn't look like she had just learned it. This surprised her. Naturally, Ace would not ignore Riveria's question. She glanced at Su Mo. After getting permission, he told Riveria honestly, "This is the technique teacher Su Mo just taught me." "What you just taught?" Riveria was shocked. "Can you master the magic of flying so quickly? And he controls it so well? No matter how talented Ace is, she can't do this." Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look at Su Mo. Sure enough, this must be the credit of this teacher Su Mo. After realizing this, Riveria was completely impressed by Su Mo's teaching ability. Not only is he powerful, he can also teach such complex magic in such a short time. He is simply the perfect teacher. No wonder this kid Ace is pestering him. Su Mo saw Riveria's eyes, but just shook his head. Although the flight speed is a bit slow and the sound control is also flawed, for the first time learning the progress is pretty good. On the way back, because I'm not in a hurry, he didn't fly with AC. Instead, she controlled the wings of wind by herself, so her flying speed was much slower than when she came. The voice of wind wings was not as concealed as when Su Mo was under control. Because of this, before, Bert would only see the two of them seconds after hearing the sound. Otherwise, if it were based on Su Mo's supersonic speed, when the werewolf, Bert heard the sound, they should have appeared by now. 136 Sword Lady is promoted to LV6. Oreo is excited hearing Su Mo's words. Riveria was stunned. She originally thought that AC had done a good job. Unexpectedly, in Su Mo's eyes, there were still so many problems. But it is, if you want to compare, the sound of AC's wind wings before was indeed a bit loud. Moreover, in terms of more details, it is indeed not as smooth as Mr. Su Mo showed. After realizing this, Riveria was immediately filled with admiration for Su Mo. Such a striving for excellence makes him worthy of being an LV7 level expert. "Thank you for teaching Ace." She immediately thanked her sincerely. As for the wind magic that Ace possesses, no one in Oreo can teach her. Even Riveria, a mage, doesn't have a deep understanding of this kind of auxiliary magic that wraps around her body instead of being emitted. In this aspect, Su Mo is still the first, probably the only one, someone who is strong and capable enough to teach Ace. Just relying on the usage of Wings of Wind, it was enough for Ace to call him a teacher. So, for Ace's previous title, none of them had any objections. Hearing this, Su Mo shook his head. It's not much of a teaching. It's just for the convenience of traveling. This is true. Capitalists let tool workers learn more 293 skills. Can that be a sincere teaching? Isn't it just to better exploit the other party's labor force? But obviously, Riveria and others did not understand this. I just thought Su Mo was more modest. Such a humble and low-key strong man is very rare in this impetuous Oreo. Suddenly, they became even more enthusiastic. Only, Su Mo had no intention of talking more. After a little introduction to each other, getting to know a few people, I chose to say goodbye and leave. Ace, of course, stayed and went back with the Loki Familia. Looking at Su Mo's leaving figure, Ace felt a little disappointed. Then she immediately turned around. He looked behind him, and for some reason, He kept looking at Lafia with the eyes of an abandoned puppy. Lafia, are you being bullied? AC tilted her head and asked with concern. No, there isn't. Lafia denied it with tears in her eyes. However, there was inevitably a flash of excitement in my heart. Sure enough, Miss Ace still loves her. Otherwise, why would you care so much about your own feelings? She felt that she could do it again, even if Miss Ace and Mr. Su Mo have a tryst in the future. It's not like she can't just stand guard. In this case, wouldn't it be possible to get closer to Miss Ace? Probably this is dog licking. Lafia, something is strange. Ace was a little confused, but looking at Lafia, it really didn't look like she was being bullied. At this time, Tiona on the side came over. He asked her very curiously, So Ace, how many floors have you and Mr. Su Mo gone to? As expected, she still cared about this issue. Heard this question. The adventurers on the side also pricked up their ears. Even the leader Finn is like this. Seeing Finn like this, Riveria couldn't help but feel a little funny. Didn't the leader say you don't need to worry about it before? How could you not care? Finn smiled bitterly and whispered, How could there be no difference between the first person to arrive and the second person to arrive? He said that before just to boost morale. In fact, he himself is very concerned about this. Everyone pretends not to care. In fact, he was very concerned about it. AC thought for 2 seconds. Then he spoke. The specific level I reached is, at this point, everyone held their breath. Chapter 148, the adventurer who was drinking water didn't even have the energy to swallow it. They are all waiting for the answer. In this case, AC gave the answer. Keep it secret. Puff. Ahem. What's the secret? Ace-chan, you're a bad learner. Everyone coughed and sprayed water. AC's words made her feel embarrassed. Even her little crush Lafia couldn't help but cast a complaining look at her. Seeing everyone like this, even Finn and Riveria were a bit out of their element. A trace of a naughty smile appeared at the corners of AC's lips, which was hard to notice, and then quickly faded away. She shook her head. So said, I made an appointment with teacher Su Mo, and we have to keep it a secret. In fact, this is not confidential content. But AC didn't know whether the previous things should be kept secret. So after thinking about it, I decided not to say anything. Hey, why is this like this? Tiona made a coquettish sound. Continued to harass AC, trying to get AC to reveal some information. Unfortunately, these harassments had no effect on Ace. In the end, nothing came out. The other adventurers on the side, after hearing the results of this confidential, they were a little speechless at first, but then they all breathed a sigh of relief. Just don't know how many floors they went to. Then it is possible to surpass them. Their exploration is likely to be meaningful. Thinking of this, most of their fighting spirit came back again. Noticing this, Finn and Riveria looked at each other, and the two of them smiled and shook their heads. They didn't expect that Espy's move would have an unexpected effect. That's all. With curiosity and excitement about the mysterious boss, Su Mo, I met today. The members of the Loki Familia quickly returned to the ground. Returned to the camp of the family members. When they come back, it was already approaching evening. In the hall of the Loki Familia, the gods of their clan are waiting for their safe return. I saw that everyone came back without any casualties. The companions stationed by the dependent clan immediately cheered. Hearing the cheers, Loki was naturally in a very happy mood. He even stood up and walked directly to the door of the hall to greet his family members. Until this second, she also looks like a reliable leader. It's a pity. When AC came into her sight, Goddess Loki immediately changed her appearance. Gi, thank you for your hard work on the expedition. Ace-chan, let me check your whole body and see if there are any injuries. Said, this red-haired, slender goddess looks like an uncle. His fingers kept twisting and he flew towards Ace. Then, bang, he was kicked away by AC's clean kick. It hit the door with a thud and made a dull sound. In other clans, it might be called the following criminal behavior. In the Loki Familia, it is no longer strange. Even Finn, the leader of the group, didn't pay too much attention to Ace's actions. He just shook his head and sighed. God Loki is good everywhere, but this kind of place gives him a headache. Riveria's mouth twitched. Finally, I took a step forward. Zero. He helped Loki up. It hurts, it hurts. Loki touched his ribs. With Riveria's help, he stood up. But she wasn't angry. He just looked at Ace curiously. Why does it feel like AC-chan's movements are more agile than before? She looked at the blonde swordswoman with some curiosity. Maybe it's because of Mr. Su Mo's teachings. Riveria sighed and reported somewhat helplessly, although Finn ordered not to tell others about Su Mo. But the gods of the dependent clan are the objects of their absolute trust. Even if Loki is like this, they still trust him very much. Of course, he wouldn't hide anything from her. Ouch! Here Riveria and Finn's descriptions. God Loki's expression became serious, and he began to squint his eyes and think about the newly obtained information. See her look. Finn, Riveria, and others nodded in approval. Even though he usually looks like a pervert, Loki looks like a pervert. But that's just what it looks like when playing around. In fact, when it comes to getting down to business, Loki's qualities as a leader come to the fore. In this regard, she is still very reliable. Think so. Finn and Riveria looked at Loki with respect. I hope this god can come to some valid conclusion. Half a minute later, Loki finally spoke. Finn and the others immediately held their breath and listened intently to her conclusion. Then I heard the sentence, "So, you really want to steal the purity that AC-chan has protected from me for 16 years? Loki slammed the table angrily. After holding it in for a long time, I finally said this. Finn and Riveria looked at the god in front of them, speechlessly. I feel so tired, and I don't even have the energy to complain. The god of their family is also a pervert when he is serious. Destroy it quickly." Seeing the expressions of the two helpers he relied on, and beside him, AIC drew out half of her long sword. Loki immediately waved his hand. Just a joke. So, she finally became serious. Regarding Su Mo's matter, Finn, you did the right thing. Let's keep it secret for the time being. This level of strong man really can't be offended. You go and collect some information about him. Not too deep, superficial information is fine. From the current situation, the other party is not only not hostile to us, but also has goodwill because of AIC. So we don't need to do too much here. Just continue like this for the time being. The only thing to be vigilant about is that we can't let this guy have the opportunity to attack AIC. At the end, Loki still exposed his true nature. However, hearing her words, Chapter 149, Finn and Lavilia both shook their heads in their hearts. It's not Mr. Su Mo who wants to attack AIC. It's AIC who keeps running over to pester Mr. Su Mo. However, Loki will definitely not listen to such words. They naturally didn't say much and just agreed. After the matter was resolved here, the Loki family fell into a brief calm. Until half an hour later, Loki, who was updating the ability values of his followers, made a cry that resounded throughout the family. Big news! This news spread throughout the family instantly. It also quickly spread throughout Oreo. It shocked all adventurers. The strongest female swordsman, Sword Princess, successfully broke through LV5 today and officially became a LV6 adventurer. 137 opened the Gate of Truth and implement the plan time reversed for several hours. When the Loki family was still deep in the dungeon, Su Mo has left the underground city. He returned to the family. Somewhat surprisingly, Hestia is not at home now. According to the social status of this abandoned goddess, she is probably going to meet her friend, the god of fire and forging. Hestia and Hephaestus have a good relationship. Before, she had been living in Hephaestus's house and eating free meals, until the goddess couldn't stand Hestia's life of eating and waiting to die. She couldn't bear it anymore and drove Hestia out, letting her be self-reliant. Hestia wandered outside and officially met Su Mo and concluded a family contract. After gaining power in the misty space, Su Mo had already set up a backup plan for Hestia. So, he didn't worry that this lowly goddess would be in danger. After closing the door, Su Mo immediately put the two huge Philosopher's Stones in his backpack on the table. The red stone, like blood, flashed a magnificent brilliance. Finally, I can start planning. Looking at the Philosopher's Stone in front of him, Su Mo was very satisfied. With so much weight in the Fullmetal Alchemist world, I don't know how many human souls would have to be sacrificed to get it. In this world, you only need to consume monsters to get it. It's so convenient. I don't know what these Philosopher's Stones can do now. Everything is ready. After Su Mo took the Philosopher's Stone, he closed his eyes, put his hands together. The next moment, he appeared in an endless space. There was no end to the world. In front of him, there stood a huge stone door. The Gate of Truth. The pattern of the Kabbalah Tree of Life was carved on the Gate of Truth. It looked simple and mysterious. Behind this door, all the knowledge, all the mysteries, and all the power of this world are hidden. But these things are not free. You need to pay enough to get what you want. Equivalent exchange is one of the philosophies that alchemy emphasizes the most. But this time, Sumo's goal is not this door of truth. Turning around, he looked behind him, a big ball of light, quietly suspended in the air. This big ball of light has various names. Truth all one God. It itself is the embodiment of the knowledge behind the door of truth, similar to the consciousness of Alea and Gaia. But it is more than that. If you have to say, the truth itself is closer to the embodiment of the source. Unlike the root princess like Seijo Aika, similar to the consciousness of the source itself. But the truth itself should be unconscious, right? Sumo looked at the big ball of light in front of him curiously and asked, "No consciousness." The big ball of light vibrated and gave an answer. Truth has knowledge about consciousness, but it has no specific will. In some people's eyes, truth is a human form. In some people's eyes, truth is a book. And in some people's eyes, truth is a big ball of light. In any case, it is not the whole picture of truth. Truth only determines the way to answer the questioner based on the questioner's imagination. In short, the ball of light in front of him is just a mimicry. Truth itself is just an information integrator, just a collection of information, and has no entity. However, if you want to communicate with people, you must have a subject. The big ball of light in front of him is the appearance of truth in Sumo's subconscious mind. So, truth became a big ball of light. The form has no meaning to it, and words are just a way of consulting and communicating. If it is a mechanical life form here, truth will probably be transformed into a hard disk with a corresponding interface and communicate directly with data. When facing humans, they often communicate with words and text. After listening to the words of the big ball of light, Su Mo nodded. It seems that the truth is different in different worlds, compared to the very rigid, emotionless ball of light in front of him. The truth of the Full Metal Alchemist world clearly carries a certain gloating malice. In order to prevent humans from being arrogant, they are given the right to spare, and this is the truth. The person who said this did not look like an emotionless information integrator. To be honest, compared to the truth of the Full Metal Alchemist world, which has a certain human color, Su Mo has a better impression of the emotionless truth of the earthly world. However, he did not delay and immediately asked the big light ball in front of him, "If you want to know how to refine the Philosopher's Stone into a finished product, how many Philosopher's Stones do you need to pay as a price?" For safety reasons, he deliberately took a detour. He did not directly say that he wanted to obtain the knowledge of refining the Philosopher's Stone. Instead, he asked how many Philosopher's Stones were needed to obtain that knowledge. This controlled the risk very well. Soon, the big light ball gave the answer. It turned directly into a small round ball the size of a fist. In order to get this answer, the Philosopher's Stone in his hand also consumed several hair-sized amounts. However, he did not care about this consumption. After confirming that it was the amount he could bear, Su Mo said immediately, "I need the knowledge to refine the Philosopher's Stone into a finished product." Okay. The big ball of light nodded up and down. The next second, the Philosopher's Stone in Sumo's hand lost a fist-sized weight, and the Gate of Truth suddenly opened. Su Mo walked into the dark door, and the knowledge about the refining of the Philosopher's Stone was constantly poured into his mind. About half a minute later, the Gate of Truth closed. Su Mo opened his eyes and digested the knowledge he had just obtained. Then, he conducted experiments on the spot. Putting his hands together, he activated a new refining array. In front of him, the originally scattered Philosopher's Stone suddenly took on a new look. It became a more perfect and pure crystal. If the previous Philosopher's Stone was just a semi-finished product, the current Philosopher's Stone is a complete finished product. give joy to suffering, victory to battle, and resurrection to the dead. The previous Philosopher's Stone could only do the first 2 points at most, chapter 150, and now the Philosopher's Stone can even do the last point, resurrection of the dead. This is a universal elixir, the dream of alchemists. Although in reality, it is not as powerful as the versions in some other worlds. But in the rules of the world of earthly wrong, this is the completed version of the Philosopher's Stone. The first step of the plan is completed. Looking at the perfect crystal in his hand, Su Mo smiled. There is a problem with the Philosopher's Stone refining array in the Full Metal Alchemist world. This point was determined when Su Mo and others first discussed it. Even the human soul and consciousness have not been cleaned up. Such a Philosopher's Stone is, of course, just a rough product. In order to avoid being cheated on this point, Su Mo and others have already discussed and solved this problem at the beginning. Now, the knowledge he has gained in his brain has completely solved this hidden danger. Directly convert the Philosopher's Stone into a finished product without any will. This is the first thing that must be done to lay the foundation. After solving the problem of the Philosopher's Stone, the next thing, it is naturally related to power. In the world of Dicuo, the power of adventurers comes from the grace of God. The grace of God is a system that can transform adventurers' experiences into power and stimulate human potential. It itself is not a gift from God. Therefore, the upper limit of adventurers is the upper limit of humans. It has nothing to do with God. At this point, Su Mo mainly relies on the experience points of himself in the world of God Slayer and the world of Tiga to kill monsters. The power of adventurers can be steadily improved through the self in these two worlds. So don't worry about it for now. In addition to the power of adventurers, in this world, the most important thing that cannot be ignored is naturally the power of God. Although the gods cannot take action, but their divine power is real. Su Mo's goal is the power of the gods. The power of Artemis, the moon goddess who can destroy the world with one arrow. He has been coveting it for a long time. It's just that he can't find a way to get the power of the moon goddess. However, now the Stone of the Sage is in hand. He can easily obtain the corresponding knowledge. Get the method to obtain the power of the moon god. In this way, he doesn't have to accept Andares. He can also save Artemis and prevent the goddess from being reborn in heaven and making Hestia sad. He can also obtain the power of the moon god. It's like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, Su Mo couldn't wait. However, he didn't act impulsively. Instead, he continued to be steady. If you want to know how to obtain the power of God, how many Philosopher's Stones do you need to pay as a price? The big light ball immediately gave an answer. It turned directly into a 6-meter-high pillar. In other words, to obtain the power of God, you need to pay so many Philosopher's Stones. It seems that it is far more than the amount of Philosopher's Stones Su Mo currently has. In answering this question, Su Mo directly consumed 1/3 of the remaining Philosopher's Stones. After realizing this, Su Mo patted his chest with great relief. Fortunately, I played it safe and didn't ask directly. Otherwise, I would have to use my trump card to get through safely. He didn't expect that just answering this question would require so many Philosopher's Stones. Fortunately, he was cautious enough and didn't ask directly. Otherwise, the Philosopher's Stones in his hand would definitely not be enough. However, even if it was not enough, Su Mo had a backup plan. The magic power in his body that was superior to the dragon veins could also be converted into Philosopher's Stone. In addition, the mental power possessed by Ultraman Tiga could also be used. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Su Mo would naturally not use these 2 trump cards. However, with these as insurance, he could trade with peace of mind. Now he finally understood how big the difference was between his goal and reality. Looking at the huge pillar in front of him, which was needed to obtain the necessary knowledge. Looking at the little Philosopher's Stone he had, Su Mo understood. I understand, you can become stronger by charging money. 138 My fatherly love for the goddess and the title of the gods meeting. Su Mo finally understood that money is power. He did not stay any longer and returned to the real world. In order to collect so many Philosopher's Stones, he needed to kill a lot of monsters. just as he was calculating how long it would take to collect the required Philosopher's Stones. Hestia went home. However, the lovely blue ribbon goddess did not seem to be in a good mood now. She did not even say, "I'm home." She just sat in front of Su Mo. She puffed her cheeks, pouted her lips, and looked aggrieved. Her cute little face was full of "come and comfort me." This look completely lacked the kind of divine majesty that she did not have on weekdays. Normally, she would take into account her status as a god and pretend to be dignified. Now she doesn't even pretend. There must be a problem, probably because she was wrong somewhere. But the problem is definitely not big. Looking at Hestia's expression, you can tell that she is just a little angry, but not really angry. It's a bit hard to understand. However, the emotions of the lowly goddess are so complicated. Maybe she had a quarrel with her best friend, Su Mo roughly guessed. Although he guessed the reason, he couldn't just leave Hestia here. After a long time, this idiot would really cry. Su Mo, who felt like an old father for some reason, sighed. "What's wrong, Hestia?" He took the initiative to ask, fulfilling the wish of the blue ribbon goddess. Finally, Su Mo asked with concern. Hestia smiled immediately. But soon, she thought that she couldn't show happiness at this time, so she immediately adjusted her expression. She grabbed Su Mo's arm and complained like a spoiled child. "Su Mo, listen to me. That guy Hephaestus is too much." The blue ribbon goddess was dissatisfied and complained to her best friend and close friend. Is this the plastic best friend relationship between goddesses? Love it. It seems that my guess was right. My own blue ribbon goddess just had a quarrel with her friend. What's wrong with goddess Hephaestus? Su Mo asked at the right time. That guy is too much. Hestia immediately became excited. He actually said that I was dreaming. I was so angry. That idiot didn't believe that you, Su Mo, were my dependent. He also said that I read too many fairy tales and was daydreaming. When Hestia mentioned this, she immediately became aggressive. She looked like she was touched and was very angry. Su Mo carefully analyzed her words. But because it was too confusing, he couldn't analyze it. Chapter 151, then he asked Hestia directly. The blue ribbon goddess naturally did not hide anything and told him everything that had happened before. Oh, that's the case. Su Mo nodded and finally understood what was going on. In short, just now, Hestia ran to show off to Hephaestus. She said that she finally had a follower and praised Su Mo in various ways. Hephaestus had given her blessings before. Later, she heard Hestia's words getting more and more outrageous. After hearing her say that Su Mo became LV2 in less than half a month, Hephaestus immediately stopped believing it. After all, the Sword Princess who holds the record for the fastest promotion to LV2 also took a full year. It's too ridiculous to be promoted to LV2 in half a month. It's totally unbelievable. In addition, the fact that Hestia, a lazy bug, suddenly got a follower. It's abnormal in itself. These two things add up. This forging goddess thought that Hestia had read too many books and was insane. So she imagined a follower named Su Mo suddenly. Hephaestus looked at Hestia with pity. She also comforted her in various ways and wanted to take her to see a doctor. Hestia, who was treated like this, was immediately furious. She swore to the sky that what she said was absolutely true. Hephaestus did not say that she did not trust her. After hearing what Hestia said, the forging goddess immediately nodded repeatedly. She said that she absolutely trusted Hestia. But there was only one premise. That is, she hoped that Hestia and herself would go to find the medicine god Mai and ask him to prescribe a dose of medicine first. Hestia had never suffered such grievances. After making a big fuss, she immediately ran back and asked Su Mo for a hug and comfort. Hearing what Hestia said, Su Mo immediately understood. Isn't this the scene where the little girl showed off her father outside, but was questioned because it was too fake, so she came back to cry to her father? He looked at the aggrieved Hestia in his arms. He really wanted to ask this lowly goddess, "When will you call me Dad?" It sounds a bit exciting. This is possible. I'll try it sooner or later. However, now is not the time to talk about this. What do you want to do, Hestia? Su Mo touched Hestia's little head and asked, "Do you want me to meet the forging goddess and confirm your words? For so long, Su Mo has indeed not seen the forging goddess. After all, he didn't plan to become an adventurer before. Naturally, there is no need for weapons. And in the past month or so, Hestia was also immersed in the new life with Su Mo. For a while, she forgot her plastic bestie. Although now, there is no need to meet her. But for the sake of her own goddess, it's okay to confirm that her words are true. Hearing Su Mo say this, Hestia thought about it with some intention, and then immediately shook her head. No need. Su Mo was a little curious. Hestia's personality is not the type that likes to be humiliated but not retaliate. Noticing Su Mo's doubts, Hestia shook her head, enjoying Su Mo's head-patting service, and said proudly, "Next week is the gods' meeting. Instead of going with you now, let that stubborn guy believe me. Why not let Hephaestus be completely shocked at the gods' meeting? I must see Hephaestus lose his composure with my own eyes." Saying this, the blue ribbon goddess gritted her teeth. As expected of a goddess, she is cruel to her bestie. Su Mo had nothing to say about Hestia's plan. Compared to this, he cared more about another point. Gods' meeting. Every month, the gods of Oreo will have a gathering. It is used for communication between the gods and to give titles to new adventurers. Generally, adventurers at level LV2 are eligible for the title. Originally, Hestia did not plan to attend the gods' meeting. After all, she is a homegirl. She does not like socializing. She only has a few good friends. There is no need to attend the gods' meeting. But this time, she must go. Because of Su Mo. Su Mo's strength will be exposed sooner or later. So instead of hiding it all the time, it is better to gradually expose it at a very appropriate rhythm. Because of this, Su Mo and Hestia have discussed and announced to the public that he has reached LV2 this time. This is also why Hestia did not mention Su Mo's real level LV3 when arguing with Hephaestus, mainly to spread the word so as to avoid other gods questioning it at that time. Because the ability value of the adventurer needs to be kept confidential. The adventurer level is provided to the guild by the main god himself. Whether it is reported too low or too high, there is room for manipulation. However, if the level is reported too low, once it is exposed, the guild will divide it by a considerable fine. After all, adventurers sometimes need to accept guild missions to protect the labyrinth city of Oreo. Therefore, in addition to some families, unless it is necessary, not many clansmen will deliberately report a low level. At least, they do it secretly. Reporting a high level is even rarer, and it can even be said that there is almost no good false level. Falsifying the level not only has no positive benefits. If you are assigned to the corresponding guild mission, you may even fall into fatal danger because of falsely reporting the level. For the lives of the clansmen, few clansmen will do this. After Su Mo and Hestia discussed, it was decided to report the level once a month in the early stage and extend it a little later depending on the situation. First, upgrade to LV6 level. It will not be too prominent, and it can serve as a deterrent, and no one dares to provoke. This is enough. And the gods meeting a week later. It is the first time that Su Mo's name appears in front of the gods. I remember that the title will be decided at the gods meeting. He suddenly remembered this matter. Yeah, Hestia nodded, and then looked at Su Mo curiously. Do you have any title you want? I'll try my best to get it for you. She said this, but she didn't have much confidence, because the title is recognized by all gods. That is to say, it depends on connections, and the poor Hestia people, except for the people's hearts wrapped in blue ribbons, which are quite impressive. The connections are almost zero. It's really difficult to get a good title for Su Mo 139, carrying Su Mo, the best teacher, probably the title you want. After hearing what Hestia said, Su Mo thought about it. He already has quite a few titles. Chapter 152, but compared to those slightly childish titles, he prefers simpler and purer ones. For example, the Young Aben, the Doorman Kin. Easy to remember and unique. As soon as you hear it, you know what it means. Unfortunately, this world does not have such cultural heritage. It is really regrettable. Shaking his head, Su Mo replied, I don't have any requirements for the title, as long as it is not ugly. Anyway, this thing can be changed after upgrading. It doesn't matter. And the speed of his upgrading is even faster than the frequency of the God Conference. So, he doesn't care about this very much. Okay then. Hestia nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. If this is the case, the difficulty of striving will be much smaller. Under normal circumstances, the gods will not deliberately give adventurers ugly names. However, after a sigh of relief, she was also very dissatisfied with her own incompetence. She couldn't even help Su Mo with such a simple thing. As the main god of the clan, she was really unqualified. Not only did she need Su Mo to support her in life, she also needed to act like a spoiled child to Su Mo. She felt that her dignity as a god seemed to be completely lost. She seemed to be a pet raised by Su Mo. No wonder Hephaestus didn't believe that Su Mo was her dependent. Such dependents were too rare and too perfect. Based on words alone, he would indeed be considered a character she imagined. Thinking of this, Hestia encouraged herself. No, she must work harder. Not only must Hephaestus look at her with new eyes, she must also help Su Mo and explain his strength reasonably. She must help this child. After that, there was no conversation all night. The next morning, after Su Mo said goodbye to Hestia, according to the agreement with AIC yesterday, he came to the entrance of the dungeon. He came on time, even a quarter of an hour earlier. However, when he arrived, he saw AIC waiting at the entrance of the dungeon. The blonde girl, Sword Princess, has a lovely face comparable to that of a god. In addition, the news that Sword Princess had advanced to LV6 last night had spread throughout Oreo. So at this moment, she, standing at the entrance of the dungeon, was quite conspicuous. There were always adventurers peeking at this side, but no one dared to go up and talk to her. No one dared to provoke an adventurer of LV6 level, plus the Loki family behind her, let alone the problem of courage. In terms of beauty and strength alone, it is enough to make people feel ashamed and dare not step forward. Su Mo naturally did not have these concerns. After seeing AIC, he walked over directly. The adventurers on the side saw this scene and showed a gloating look. They thought Su Mo would definitely be rejected and might even suffer a little. However, what they did not expect was seeing this man coming over. Sword Princess AIC Wallenstein, who was also expressionless, had a sweet smile on her face. Everyone was stunned. That always cold and ruthless sword lady would actually show such an expression to a man one day. Many adventurers who had a crush on the sword lady had their dreams shattered on the spot. Others were whispering, suddenly remembering the rumors a few days ago. This legendary sword lady might really be in love. Teacher Su Mo. Seeing Su Mo coming on time, AIC's voice was full of happiness. The initial expedition of the Loki family has been completed. There is still some time before the official expedition. Now they are in the rest period and can move freely. So, she plans to follow Su Mo all the time during this period and serve as a supporter. Good morning. Su Mo greeted him and then noticed something. You seem to have become a little stronger. It can be seen that AIC's aura has become a little stronger. This magnitude should not be achieved by updating the ability value data. Well, I've upgraded. AIC reported her progress truthfully. For her, being able to learn the wings of wind is already a great gain. But she never expected it. Yesterday, I just followed Su Mo to explore. Not only did I learn a new way to use Wind Spirit Sprint, I even broke through the bottleneck that had troubled me for more than a year. I finally advanced from LV5 to LV6. I followed Su Mo closely once and gained so many changes. It made her even more inseparable from Su Mo. She also admired Su Mo even more. Hearing AIC's report, Su Mo was delighted. Well done. It seems that today we can go deeper into some floors. He was also very happy about AIC's growth. The stronger AIC is, the deeper the floor they can enter. The more Philosopher's Stones they can obtain. They can also save up the required amount faster. Work efficiency can be greatly increased. Yeah, seeing Su Mo's happy expression, AIC's heart was also warm. Teacher Su Mo really treats her very well. Seeing that she has become stronger, she is so happy for her. She even specially adjusted the floor suitable for her. It's so considerate. I will listen to the teacher and repay him in the future. She swore silently in her heart. AC never thought that Sumo's happiness was just because the work efficiency of the tool man was improved. This is probably how the beautiful misunderstanding came about. Neither of them likes to talk nonsense. After a brief exchange, they walked towards the dungeon together. Su Mo is preparing to kill all the monsters in the deep dungeon in the next few days. I don't know how many Philosopher's Stones I can save. After Su Mo in the world of Dicuo began to indulge in killing monsters in the dungeon and wanted to get enough Philosopher's Stones. Genshin Impact World. Su Mo, who has obtained the master level of alchemy, has just got up. Because they registered as adventurers and have obtained enough Mora, they don't have to squeeze into the same room anymore. Instead, they open 2 rooms directly. Paimon chooses who to sleep with according to his own preferences. Last night, Paimon chose Ing. After all, they're all girls, so they probably have some girlish topics to talk about. However, early in the morning, Su Mo had just finished washing up when there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door, it was Ing and Paiming. "Good morning." Paiming waved his hand and greeted them very energetically. "Su Mo, good morning." Ing also nodded. Su Mo nodded and responded. Then he found that Paiming circled around him and looked him up and down. He looked very curious. Chapter 153, What's Wrong? Su Mo couldn't help but ask, "What kind of medicine is this little guy selling in the gourd?" Hey. Paimon scratched his hair and asked curiously, "I just want to see, Su Mo, if you have awakened any strange power again." Su Mo woke up after waking up yesterday. Paimon guessed that maybe Su Mo could wake up again while sleeping, so I dragged him here early in the morning to see if Su Mo would gain strange powers like yesterday. Paimon sighed. Ying's eyes were also very curious. After all, Su Mo awakened his power too frequently. Even she felt that Paimon's guess was not unreasonable. After hearing Paiming's words, Su Mo asked back, "Do you think you can become stronger by sleeping with someone?" "That's right." Hearing Su Mo's rhetorical question, Paiming touched his head in embarrassment. It's obviously against common sense to become stronger while sleeping. Just when she thought she had guessed wrong, Su Mo added leisurely, "I'm telling you, it's really possible." Huh? Paimon was surprised by this turn of events. "Su Mo, do you mean that you have really awakened other powers?" Su Mo nodded. "However, what is awakened this time is mainly the power of alchemy. It's not anything particularly interesting. Compared with the transformation form of Pokémon, alchemy is indeed difficult to call interesting." Hear his words. Ing showed a somewhat envious expression. "Alchemy, so powerful. When will she be like Su Mo and become stronger while sleeping?" So let's not talk about this for now. Su Mo looked at the time and said, "It's almost time to eat. We made an appointment yesterday to meet with Wendy to discuss the matter of the Wind Demon Dragon. Without further ado, let's set off now." Set off. When it came to business, both Ing and Paimon nodded. However, Su Mo always felt that Paimon might care more about breakfast than the Wind Demon Dragon. This emergency food thief can eat it. After several people went downstairs. Soon, we arrived at the appointed place, the Deer Hunter restaurant. In fact, Wendy proposed to meet at the pub yesterday, but Su Mo refused. No one goes drinking early in the morning. Hey, singer Paimon, who was flying in the air, noticed the cuckold bard and immediately flew over. Su Mo and Ing also followed. Wow! After flying to the table, Paimon immediately marveled at Wendy. What a rich food. Did you eat so much for breakfast? In front of Wendy, a large table of food was placed. These are Mondstadt's specialty breakfasts. Of course not. Wendy shook her head. This is for you. Come and try it. These are Mondstadt's specialties. I personally recommend them. Hear Wendy say that. Paimon's eyes immediately lit up and he rushed forward. I always thought that you, the singer, were an alcoholic. After biting into a Tevat omelet, Paimon looked at Wendy with admiration. I didn't expect that you are actually quite a nice person. Greedy Paimon immediately sent Wendy a good person card. 140 Paimon is tricked and the Wind Demon Dragon attacks, seeing such a generous performance from Wendy. Su Mo immediately felt that something was going on. Wendy is not the same money-grubbing character as Paimon. He doesn't care too much about money. He just spends it when he needs to. This also leads to him being a poor man. A poor guy suddenly gave me such a generous treat, or I have something to ask for, or they don't intend to pay the bill. Su Mo glanced at Wendy's purse with sharp eyes. It was immediately determined that he was the second case. But the breakfast Wendy ordered was too rich for one person. For 4 people, it's just a little more. With Paimon and Ning here, the food is definitely worth it. It can be seen that Wendy did not order randomly. Even if you pay the bill, it's just a meal for this guy. Therefore, Su Mo didn't care. Shinshin took a seat. He looked at Wendy, who had already had breakfast, and asked straight to the point. Didn't you say yesterday that you wanted to talk to us about the Wind Demon Dragon? There must be something you want to tell us, right? Yesterday, he successfully attracted Wendy with dandelion wine and let Wendy have to include him in the plan. After probably discussing it, several people acted together. Su Mo was about to dig into the story behind the Wind Demon Dragon. However, it was very unwise to discover that at that time, when he simply drank more than half of the bottle of dandelion wine in one go. Then the bard got drunk. This is why he was called an alcoholic by Paimon. Drunk when he looked very cute as she drifted around. Unfortunately, it's a man, and it's very difficult. Although he is not alcoholic, he is more difficult to deal with than someone who is alcoholic. Just thinking about it gives me a headache. Fortunately, the bartender Charles has experience in dealing with such guests. Wendy was arranged in a separate small room specially for drunks. Su Mo and others were able to get away. So, today's meeting was the official start of communication. After hearing Su Mo's words, Wendy thought about it. I didn't remember what I said yesterday. But if it's something I want to tell you, it should be about the origin of Teverin. When he thought about it and took out a harp from his waist. It just so happens that you haven't had breakfast yet. He chuckled. Then let me, the best bard in the world, tell you the morning story. The melodious sound of the harp sounded. Wendy's serious voice complemented the sound of the harp. The story I want to tell begins in ancient times. At that time, the gods still walked on the earth. Later, the Dark Age came. At this time, the lion's teeth decayed and the eagle flag did not fly. Another evil dragon approached Mondstadt. Chapter 154 in the sound of the piano. Wendy began to tell Tverin's story. Initially, Tevelin was attracted by Wendy's singing and became a follower of the wind god. And later, he became one of the 4 guardians of the winds protecting Mondstadt. Tevelin, dragon of the east wind. And later, some dark age. At that time, there were no successors to the Knights of the Lion's Tooth, and the talents of the Knights of the West Wind were withered. Mondstadt, who was in his weakest state, was attacked by the poisonous dragon Dulin. To protect Mondstadt, Tevelin appeared on the earth and fought with the poisonous dragon Dulin. After the fight, the poisonous dragon Dulin was successfully defeated. But Tevelin was also seriously injured and contaminated by the poisonous blood. He has been sleeping ever since. Until recently, I woke up from my deep sleep. But he became an enemy of mankind and was called the Wind Demon Dragon. Tverin's story is over. Su Mo and Ning also finished their breakfast. Guests at other tables naturally heard Wendy singing. Immediately applauded. Although the story is a bit old, the music is truly masterful. The best bard in the world, this title is by no means a boast. After the applause, Sarah, the waiter at the Deer Hunter, came over. Is this lady here to ask for an autograph? Wendy said with a chuckle. Unfortunately, I am having dinner with friends now, and there is no way to fulfill your wish. It doesn't matter. Sarah kept her professional smile. Actually, I'm here to urge you to settle the bill. A total of 2,000 molas. Oh, it turns out I'm paying the bill. When Wendy heard this, she looked at Su Mo without any embarrassment. Su Mo turned his eyes to Ing. Yesterday, he left the money here. Ing turned her eyes to Paimon. Because Paimon had storage space, the money was placed on her. Paimon swallowed the last piece of toast. Then she looked around and saw that everyone's eyes were focused on her. It's asking her to pay the bill. She exploded immediately. Paimon put his hands on his hips and looked at Wendy angrily. Hey, singer, aren't you paying the bill today? Fortunately, she thought the bard was a good person and even praised him. Unexpectedly, This guy had no intention of treating him. Actually, I also want to treat you. Wendy took out her wallet with an innocent look on her face. But as you can see, I'm broke. Since we are all companions, it's up to you to treat us this time, he said in a very skilled manner. You guys are just cheating on me by eating and drinking. Paimon stamped his feet anxiously. How abominable! However, there is no way not to pay. With a look of reluctance, he counted out enough molas and handed them to Sarah. Thank you. Wendy, who had had a meal in vain, was extremely happy, except for an angry little Paimon. Ing and Su Mo didn't care too much about food money. Thinking of the story Wendy told just now, Ing said with some confusion, if the story you just told is true, then why does the Wind Demon Dragon attack the people in Mondstadt? She was very concerned about this. Teverin is one of the wardens of the Four Winds. Even if he wakes up from his slumber, he should be the Mondstadt guardian. Then why is it called the Wind Demon Dragon that attacks Mondstadt? I don't know much about this. Wendy shook her head. The last time I communicated with Tevelin, I found that his mind seemed to be affected by something. I don't know why, but I have resentment towards Mondstadt, towards me, towards the Wind God. Zero asked for flowers. Zero, if I had been able to talk to Tevelin for a little longer, maybe I would have known the reason. Speaking of which, Wendy glanced at Ing and Su Mo with her jewel-like emerald eyes. Then he sighed with a meaning tone. Oh, what a pity. Just when I'm preparing to trace the cause, I was disturbed by two unexpected visitors. Otherwise, I might have resolved the misunderstanding with Teverin long ago. So saying, this guy just stared at Ing and Su Mo with a smile. He looked at me like this. Ing immediately retreated tactically. He looked surprised. You mean it's our fault? The young woman directly answered Wendy's words. Unlike Su Mo, who just pretended not to hear, he would never be taken advantage of. The cunning Wendy. Naturally, he would not let go of Ying's immature performance. Now that you know, you must take responsibility. He climbed directly up the pole. I want Ing and Su Mo to take on the responsibility of awakening Tevelin. What? This is too treacherous. Paimon on the side couldn't help but complain. But the uprising felt that what Wendy said seemed to make sense. If what Wendy said was true, then he and others had indeed disturbed Wendy's affairs. It seemed like it needed some help. And Su Mo on the side. But suddenly he raised his head and looked somewhere. Then he asked in a somewhat strange tone, Wendy, since you said that we interrupted your communication, if you don't have time to trace the reason for Teverin's drastic change in temperament, then is it okay to create enough time for you to communicate? Hearing Su Mo's question, Wendy felt a little strange but still nodded. That's not wrong. I think Teverin's resentment is not a natural product, but the result of corruption. If we can communicate further with Teverin, we will definitely be able to figure out the reason for his drastic change in temperament. Having said that, Wendy began to talk about his plan. So, now we need to get the sky harp of the West Wind Church. Only this thing can call Teverin and let me continue to communicate with it. Without further delay, let's set off quickly. After speaking, Wendy urged the two, prepare to let them help him get the sky harp. Skillfully turned Su Mo and Ing into his tools. This may be the talent for slacking off. However, he did not expect that. After hearing Wendy's words, Su Mo did not stand up immediately. Instead, he shook his head. I think it's not that troublesome at all. He stood up and looked at the sky. Chapter 155, is there something over there? Paimon came over curiously. At this moment, the situation changed and a strong wind came. In the distant sky, the dragon's roar turned into a shock wave, blowing away the roofs of Mondstadt City. The Wind Demon Dragon is here, Su Mo said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant green dragon descended along with the storm. The huge wind damage directly turned the streets into a mess. The entire city of Mondstadt fell into chaos. 141 The first time we met, my uncle saw that he could kill someone. See the giant green dragon above your head. When he was very surprised. Even he did not expect that Tevelin would attack Mondstadt at this time. Thinking of what Su Mo said before, he suddenly became nervous. What are you going to do? Wendy asked immediately. Of course it's to make up for our mistakes and let you have a good communication with it, Su Mo said with a smile. When he mentioned his fault, he deliberately emphasized his tone. Wendy immediately covered her face. She didn't expect that one day she would trick herself. Speaking of which, this was the second time he was defeated by Su Mo. You shouldn't be wanting to conquer Tevelin, right? He asked worriedly. Of course not. Su Mo immediately shook his head. Since we have made an agreement to restore Tevelin's consciousness, I will naturally not break the agreement. However, with Tverin in his current state, taking action is inevitable. Presumably the wind god doesn't want to see Tverin destroy Mondstadt like this, right? He asked meaningfully. Here's Su Mo's question. Wendy sighed and nodded. Indeed, Tverin cannot be allowed to destroy Mondstadt like this. Then it's up to you. He was unwilling to let Special 293 Varen be harmed, but he is also unwilling to let Tverin harm the city of Mondstadt he protects. Therefore, Su Mo's words are actually the best way. Of course, the premise is that Su Mo really won't kill the dragon Tverin easily. After reaching a consensus with Wendy, Su Mo didn't take action. Instead, he looked at Ing beside him. What's wrong, Su Mo? Ing asked doubtfully. Do you need my help? She really wanted to help Su Mo. It's a pity that she can't fly, and now she doesn't have wings of wind or anything like that. There is no way to fight the dragon. Hearing Ying's words, Su Mo laughed. Of course I need your help. You are the heroine this time. What heroine? Ing looked at Su Mo confused. Now, the wind demon dragon is harassing the entire Mondstadt. All the citizens of Mondstadt have seen the terror and threat of the wind demon dragon. At this time, what is more worthy of admiration than a hero who drives away the dragon? Su Mo asked back. He wants to win the favor of the people of Mondstadt and the Knights of the West Wind. This is the best opportunity. You mean let me go? Ing understood what Su Mo said. It was immediately clear that Su Mo was thinking about himself. Otherwise, with her current strength, she would not be able to intervene in this incident. But I can't fly. She shook her head. Apart from anything else, she has no way to deal with the wind demon dragon now. That's not a problem. Su Mo shook his head. I will let the wind around me help you. It just requires you to make a small sacrifice. However, in order to find your brother, this is also a necessary sacrifice. Hearing Su Mo's words, Ing tilted her head, looking very cute. A small sacrifice? She didn't quite understand what Su Mo meant. Wendy on the side looked at the two of them curiously. He can let the 1,000-year-old Lu Feng helping defeat Tevelin. However, this cannot be said directly. After all, he still has to hide his identity as the god of wind. I thought I could only hand over Tevelin to Su Mo to solve the problem. But he didn't expect that Su Mo actually wanted Ing to appear. Think about it, indeed. Ying's trip was to find her brother. So naturally, she wanted to make her image known to every household, even if the missing person notice has no effect. But your reputation can spread throughout the world. If one day, Ying's brother hears about Ying's reputation, maybe it can also reunite siblings. Therefore, Ying's appearance is necessary. However, Wendy was very concerned about how Su Mo would giving the power to fly. To be honest, Wendy has always been curious about the nature of Su Mo's power. This time it was rare to be able to observe it head-on, so he naturally would not let this opportunity pass him by. And this time, looking at Ing, who was slightly confused, Su Mo took a step forward. He grabbed her shoulders. The two looked at each other, and Ying's breathing couldn't help but become a little panicked. Then, she heard Su Mo's words. This is a ritual that must be performed in order to be empowered. However, I personally am looking forward to it. And guess something? But she didn't avoid it subconsciously. The next second, her brain was confused. All she felt was warmth covering her lips. Then, the pearly teeth were knocked open. The magic power of the two began to communicate. Su Mo held Ying's little head that was stunned by shock, while feeling the sweet taste of youth. He chanted the word spirit. I am the strongest and hold all victories in my hands. My chosen followers, as long as you sing my word spirit, you can accept my protection. As long as you do not deviate from my will, you will never lose my protection. The power of the God Slayer was activated. This is the power of the young incarnation from the power of the Zoroastrian military god, Velaslana, god of war in the east. The young incarnation can protect humans and make them obey. When important companions are in crisis, this power can be used to give others power and strengthen them. It is with the help of this power, Su Mo gave Ing a protection, which greatly increased her strength. Ing was originally able to master the power of the wind element. After obtaining the protection, the control over the wind element immediately increased significantly. Chapter 156, even in a short period of time, he can be directly promoted to the level of a subordinate god. It can even be said that he can directly control the storm with such a level of control power. Naturally, he can fly directly in the air without any stagnation. It is also possible to deal with the wind demon dragon in front of the public. It can be said that Su Mo did this. It is purely to temporarily enhance Ying's power, and there is no other bad intention. The only problem is, he has no restrictions on the use of his incarnation, and he can actually convey the protection to Ing without kissing. But he completely ignored this. I don't know if it was intentional, seeing the actions of the two. "Wow!" Wendy exclaimed, and then his expression immediately became gossipy. The feelings between companions are gradually mellowing and changing. It seems that what we are going to write this time is not only a heroic poem, but also a love poem for the intimate atmosphere between the two. Wendy had noticed it long ago, but he didn't expect that the two would progress so quickly. He suspected that if this continued, it would probably take until Ing found her brother. Her brother will be surprised to find that he has two more nieces. If it is really zero, that would be a very interesting scene. On the other side, watching Su Mo and Ing, Paimon had a big doubt in his little head. When did they become so close? Paimon suspected that he had missed an episode. However, he was not too surprised by their behavior. It was just a kiss. When she and Ing were playing, they would occasionally kiss, although it was just face to face. But it probably didn't make much difference. However, for some reason, Paimon always felt that he was excluded. Is it an illusion? Because of the wind demon dragon, the pedestrians around had already avoided it. No one noticed that there were still couples doing this here. And Su Mo, after the protection was finished, he did not stop, until Ing had difficulty breathing and couldn't help but step on Su Mo. He stopped. Ing looked at Su Mo with a red face. The sacrifice mentioned before really meant this. She was not angry, but just felt a little embarrassed. She was not ready for this to happen suddenly. Her clothes today were not cute enough, and she did not rinse her mouth long enough. However, she felt the sudden expansion of power in her body. She realized that Su Mo did have a legitimate reason to do this. She did not know what to say. After thinking about it, she kicked her feet and flew directly into the sky. The traveler can fly too. Paimon was a little surprised. It seems that the traveler is shy. When he teased on the side. Why shy? Paimon looked at him with some confusion. The traveler and Su Mo have a good relationship. In her opinion, the previous behavior was proof of their close relationship. It was nothing big. Hearing Paimon's words, Winnie held back her laughter and said, "You will know this kind of thing when you grow up. Hey, is there anything that needs to be kept secret from Paimon?" Paimon was aroused by curiosity. He immediately looked at Su Mo, letting teach you this knowledge 3.0. Su Mo spread his hands and didn't intend to explain the adult's affairs to Paimon. Mysterious. Paimon was a little dissatisfied, but didn't ask any more questions. She planned to asking later. At this time, high in the sky, Ing had already flown to a position close to the wind dragon Teverin. With Su Mo's protection, she flew in the air like a fish in water. Both her physical fitness and the power of the wind she mastered have been greatly enhanced. She is not inferior to the dragon in front of her. Soon, a conflict broke out between the man and the dragon. The battle began. Teverin in a weak state was no match for Ing in a protected state, and was actually beaten by her for a while. At this time, Su Mo passed a message to Ing through Lufo. "Ing, attract Teverin to the square." Hearing Su Mo's voice, Ing recalled what happened before, and her heart suddenly became shy. Especially, Su Mo had said before that he was looking forward to doing this. Is this a confession? It is a confession. For a moment, her heart was beating wildly again. However, at this moment, business is the most important thing. Yes, she nodded immediately. Following Su Mo's guidance, Tevrin was gradually led to the Wind God Square in front of Mon Cathedral. 142 Frozen Wind Dragon. True Lord Ningbing Duhai, the arrival of the Wind Dragon has plunged the entire Mondstadt into chaos. Although the Knights and the Knights of Favonius are strong, they really have no way to fly. Even with the wings of wind, it is impossible to fight the Wind Dragon in this environment. Therefore, facing the attack of the Wind Dragon, the Knights can only do basic defense work for the time being. At this time, the stranger who suddenly took off, he fought with the Wind Dragon in the sky and seemed to have the upper hand. This scene was naturally witnessed by all the citizens of Mondstadt. It immediately attracted everyone's attention, whether it is the knights or the church or the people who make fools of themselves. They all raised their heads and watched the battle in the sky. The citizens of Mondstadt prayed that this strange hero would win. This time, in guides Tevelin, the Wind Demon Dragon. Follow Su Mo's instructions and take it to the direction of Function Square. Halfway through the flight, the sky gradually became dense with dark clouds. In less than 10 seconds, torrential rain began to fall. The heavy rain was like a basin pouring water down, instantly making the ground wet. But I don't know why. Ing found that there was not even a drop of water on her body. Even if you don't use wind element protection, no water splashed on her. In an instant, Ing understood something. I couldn't help but glance down. Chapter 157. It must be Su Mo's power. 05. She judged it immediately. Ying's judgment was correct. At this time, Su Mo and Paimon were on their way to Function Square. And the sudden heavy rain in the middle of Mondstadt City was also Su Mo's handiwork. Huge rain, bypassing the screen. Wet Teverin's whole body directly. That's it. At a wet state, Su Mo muttered. After seeing that the heat is almost done, he immediately snapped his fingers. Crack! The torrential rain stopped immediately. However, the dark clouds did not clear. Instead, it was a freezing blizzard and hail. To be more precise, it's localized snowstorms and hail. In the sky, hail and snowflakes kept hitting the Wind Demon Dragon as if they were free of charge. Like rain, wind and snow completely avoided Ing. The Wind Demon Dragon let out an angry roar, but he couldn't get rid of this locked attack. Hail and snowflakes can't do any harm to it. Hitting the dragon wouldn't even hurt. But what remains in Tevelin's mind is the knowledge of elemental reactions that tell it. This must not continue. Besides Su Mo, Wendy, who finally understood what he wanted to do, exclaimed, "Oh, so this is the method. It's amazing." If it weren't for distinguishing it clearly, it was his voice. Su Mo almost thought it was Irene, the future knight, coming over. Winnie on the side didn't know what he was thinking. After knowing Su Mo's plan, he was very happy, because he knew that Su Mo's power was even greater than when he was in his prime. So Winnie has been worried that Su Mo will take action against Teverin and directly kill the dragon. Now, after noticing Su Mo's solution, Winnie finally breathed a sigh of relief. This time, even Paimeng on the side could see Su Mo's plan. Is this an elemental reaction? I remember water and ice, it should freeze. Paimon without the eye of God. I don't remember the elemental reactions very clearly. However, she still knew the most basic freezing reaction. That's right. Su Mo nodded. At this time, they had already crossed the last step and arrived at Function Square. In front of them was a huge statue of the God of Wind. My plan is to freeze Tevelin first so that it loses its ability to create chaos. As for the rest, how to comfort it and how to make it regain its consciousness. That's the bard thing. Su Mo explained his plan to Paimon. The elements of Tevat are not special in themselves. However, the reactions between various elements are slightly different from other worlds. The ice element alone cannot be frozen. It must be combined with the water element to trigger the freezing reaction. That's why he manipulated the heavens one after another. It's just to attract moisture first and then trigger freezing. In the original game, Fong Malong, as the boss, did not suffer from control effects. However, in the face of the power of God, even if it is a giant dragon, it must stand still. After Su Mo finished explaining, the words just fell. The Wind Demon Dragon in the sky was led to the Function Square. And this time, The intensity of hail and blizzards increased instantly. Crunch, crunch. The traces of water on the surface of the wind demon dragon have long since frozen into ice. Then from the outside to the inside, layer by layer, the struggling wind demon dragon was completely frozen, turning it into a huge ice sculpture. An ice sculpture of a giant dragon floating in the air. It should have hit the ground hard, but under the soft background of the wind element, it was able to fall slowly. Finally, there was a pop placed on Function Square, in front of the huge statue of the god of wind. An equally huge ice sculpture of the wind demon dragon is crawling on its back. A scene similar to the first encounter between Tverin and the wind god Barbados appeared in front of Wendy. He couldn't help but feel a little dazed, recalling the past. After a moment of trance, clatter! Ing, who was responsible for attracting the attention of the wind demon dragon, landed lightly on the ground. She and Su Mo looked at each other, their eyes still a little flustered. But he won't be so shy that he runs away like before. Is this big guy the wind demon dragon? Paimon curiously approached the ice sculpture. This was her first time to see a giant dragon at such a close distance. In the transparent ice, Tevelin's appearance is lifelike. In other words, it is actually alive at all. In the world of Genshin Impact, a wild boar that has been frozen in ice for hundreds of years and a butterfly that has been sealed in amber for thousands of years are still alive and kicking. The preservation effect of freezing can be said to be brought to its extreme. The reason why Wendy felt at ease. It was also because Su Mo's approach could preserve Teverin's life to the greatest extent possible. At the same time, the disaster of the wind demon dragon was also solved. It can be said that it kills two birds with one stone. Wendy didn't think of this method before, not because she was lazy, simply because, except for Su Mo, almost no one can freeze a big guy like Teverin. You have to say yes. It also requires two people, the ice god and the water god. But this is also impossible. Although Wendy knew before that Su Mo could control the sky and wind and thunder. But this was the first time he knew that he could control wind, frost, rain, and snow. It was a bit stronger than he imagined. But, compared to before, he was still a little wary of Su Mo's power. Now Wendy is not worried about Su Mo's excessive strength. The person who can make travelers feel at ease and get close to him is definitely not a bad person. So, he easily jumped onto Tevelin's head. Not bothering that but was cold, I just sat on it and gently played with the strings. Yes, it is Tverin. He introduced to Paimon with a happy look on his face. He didn't care that Tverin was staring at him from under his butt. Su Mo didn't freeze Teverin's consciousness 293, he just made his body unable to move. Such a big wind demon dragon can actually be frozen into an ice sculpture. Paimon flew up and took a look at the entire wind demon dragon. Immediately sighed. Su Mo is too strong. Wendy and Ing also nodded. Although I have been with Su Mo all the time. Chapter 158, but even Ing officially got a glimpse of Su Mo's power for the first time. Compared with the previous performance of destroying the Coquettish people's camp and changing the celestial phenomena. This time, the experience of freezing the giant dragon Tevelin was more intuitive. It is simply as powerful as a god. Besides, the power of protection given to her by Su Mo also surprised her. Even she, who had just gained the power of the wind element and had not yet had time to study it carefully, was able to defeat Tevelin after using the protection. It's just outrageous. Ing felt that if he fought with that strange god back then, if he had the protection given by Su Mo, he might not lose. It's just a way to get protection, which makes people feel a little shy. Just when several people felt the same way. A strange, young man's voice sounded. It sounds a little glib, but there's also a fair amount of seriousness. It's really strong. You can actually have the power to fight a giant dragon and freeze it in ice. Are you guests of Mondstadt? Or is it a new storm? A man wearing a snow-white fur shawl of an unknown creature and an eye patch on his right eye, looking a bit like a pirate, walked over. Attracted everyone's attention. Su Mo also looked up. It's you, the ice-crossing sea true monarch. At the same time, the young man introduced himself. I am Kaya, the cavalry captain of the Knights of the West Wind. Welcome to Mondstadt. two heroes who defeated the dragon. 143 Cavalry Captain. Where is your horse? Kaya, a 4-star one-handed sword character, is a minor leader who is often sent by travelers to mine. Oh no, this introduction is only applicable before traveling through time. Now Kaya, standing in front of Su Mo, is the guardian knight of Mondstadt. He is the cavalry captain of the Knights of the West Wind and the trusted deputy of the acting head of the Knights of the West Wind. It can be said that his status in Mondstadt is very high. It was obvious that he was wary to a certain extent about Ing, who could fight the Wind Demon Dragon, and Su Mo, who could freeze the Wind Demon Dragon. After all, the power of these two people is too powerful. It is difficult for people to trust someone without contact. However, caution does not mean malice. The matter of the frozen wind demonic dragon was, no matter what, an act that saved Mondstadt. In Kaya's heart, she was very grateful to the two for their actions. Only then, as a cavalry captain, did he respectfully call the two heroes, which was regarded as a definite sign. Su Mo didn't care about these official words. After seeing Kaya, he asked a question that he had always cared about. You said you were the cavalry captain, but where is your horse? Why don't you have a horse? This is not a dirty word. Rather, Su Mo was really curious about this issue. Kaya was stunned when she heard his question. No one has ever asked him such a question. He spread his hands and said, in Mondstadt, it is forbidden to ride horses unless necessary. This is the rule of Captain Kin. He really has a horse. It's just that I haven't ridden for the time being. Isn't now an important moment? Paimon asked a little strangely. The Wind Demon Dragon attacks Mondstadt. Could there be a more urgent moment than this? Kaya looked curiously at Paimon, who was flying in the sky and could talk. Mouth replied, these are indeed critical times, but under the disaster caused by the Wind Demon Dragon, even horses will not be able to play any role, and they may also be in danger. The horses are being housed indoors for safety reasons. The importance of horses to knights needs no declaration. That's something that needs to be protected. Because of this, horses cannot be sacrificed when they are unable to play their role. Instead, put it in a safe place. That's why he didn't ride a horse. After finishing speaking, Kaya didn't want to continue discussing the issue of horses or not, always feeling a little strange. He looked at Su Mo and others and asked curiously, what do you call them? Hear him say that. Paimon was about to introduce himself. At this time, above the sky, a fiery red, hot-looking girl used the wings of wind to glide down. Not Kelly, the real fish fryer in the solitary room, but the burning torch and burning vine true monarch, Amber. I saw a girl gliding down from the sky. Cavalry Captain Kaya clapped his hands and activated the yin and yang strange energy skill. Sometimes I really admire your courage. You actually dare to use the wings of wind before the storm has dissipated? As a glider, the wind wing itself cannot adapt to too complex airflow. If you're not careful, you may fall and die. Although the Wind Demon Dragon has been defeated now, but the wind element turbulence has not been completely eliminated. Amber's actions are really dangerous. Hey, Amber, who was enthusiastic and cheerful, thought that Kaya was really praising her. Anyway, the Wind Demon Dragon is frozen, so this storm is nothing to me now. Captain Kaya, you don't have to worry about me. After laughing, Amber turned her attention to Su Mo and Ing. You are the scout knight from last time? Paimon recognized Amber immediately after seeing the tiara on her head. Amber also recognized Paimon. You were the emergency food last time, and the cup. She immediately remembered the introduction when they met last time. Hearing Amber say this, Paimon immediately stomped his feet in anger. No, Paimon is not an emergency food, nor a cup. Seeing the two of them talking happily, Ki on the side was a little concerned. He looked at Amber curiously and asked, it seems that you know each other? Yes, I saw it when I was scouting yesterday. Amber nodded immediately. At that time, they were cleaning up the nearby camp of the hill people. She was not scheming, and immediately told everything about the encounter yesterday. Su Mo and others also introduced a few people at the right time. Ki only then knew their names. Mr. Su Mo, thank you for helping Mond. Ki bowed to Su Mo with knight etiquette to thank him. After Su Mo accepted the thanks, he turned to Ing on the side. My traveler, I understand the pain of separation from blood relatives. When he said this, his tone was a little heavy, probably because he remembered his own life experience. Although I don't know why you are looking for the god of wind. Everyone has their own secrets. We will try our best to assist you. He promised to help. Ing was delighted when she heard it. Isn't this one of the goals that Su Mo planned for her? Thank you. She immediately thanked him happily. You're welcome. This is what we should do. Kaya smiled. Chapter 159 then. He turned his gaze to Wendy again. He was always good at making things happen, but he couldn't help but get stuck. What? Are you thinking about how to thank me? Seeing his appearance, Wendy chuckled and jumped down from the top of the dragon. Then he showed a very relaxed smile. If you want to thank me, it's very simple. Just bring a bottle, a barrel of dandelion wine. I will be satisfied enough. The greedy poet originally only wanted to say a bottle. Later, he thought about it and immediately changed it to a barrel. Old blackmail. Although, compared with the big event of saving Mondstadt from the wind dragon, a mere barrel of dandelion wine is not a big expense. But Kia hesitated and said, Actually, I was just thinking this bard named Wendy. Excuse me, did you help before? No matter how he thought about it. Listening to what Su Mo and Ing said before, Wendy didn't make any effort, right? Even if he wants to thank him, it seems that it is not his turn. Wendy was dumbfounded. Why does Kia not play by the rules? He thanked Su Mo and Ing successively, but why did he change when it came to him? This man is too fickle. However, an old hand like Wendy will not be trapped by such words. Although I did not fight the wind demon dragon head-on, I am a teammate of Su Mo and the Traveler. Since ancient times, after the brave defeats the evil dragon, the brave will certainly be welcomed extra. But the brave's teammates will also be treated with respect, right? Right. Wendy blinked his eyes, as if he would pester him if he didn't agree. Well, it does make sense. Thinking about it, seeing the indescribable expressions of Ing and Su Mo, but not denying the teammates matter. Kia still nodded, recognized Wendy's treatment as a brave teammate. After talking with the three people, Kia spoke again. The thanks of the Knights of Favonius will not be late. But now the matter of freezing the wind dragon is indeed very important. So, please wait a moment. The acting leader is on the way. Unlike the original book, where the wind dragon was just driven away. Now, the wind dragon was directly frozen in the Wind God Square. For such an important matter, it is naturally impossible for Captain Qin to stay in the office. After hearing the news, she rushed here directly. Hearing Kia's words, Su Mo, Ing, and Wendy had no opinions. After all, this is Mondstadt, and Teverin is the guardian of the four winds of Mondstadt. How to deal with the wind dragon naturally needs to listen to the opinions of the Knights of Favonius. However, on the side, Paimon, who was floating in the sky, had a lot of opinions. Wait, wearing an eye patch. She looked at Kia angrily. She crossed her arms and said with dissatisfaction, Why did you thank the street singers but missed me? Everyone who sees it gets a share. I am also Su Mo's teammate. Paimon should also be treated like a brave teammate. Seeing Paimon say this, Ing and Su Mo looked at each other and both found it a little funny. As expected of Paimon, he is very clear in this regard. Being said by Paimon, Kia couldn't help but laugh. It's my fault. Sorry. I ignored this emergency food lady. Then he ignored Paimon's protest. He suggested in a coaxing tone, If you want a thank you gift, how about a plate of fried carrots with honey sauce? Fried carrots with honey sauce? Hearing the name of the dish, Paimon immediately recalled the dinner the day before yesterday. She couldn't help but drool. This tastes delicious. Not bad. Paimon wants this. I don't know if she is smart or stupid. She was directly dismissed with a plate of fried carrots with honey sauce. When Paimon was finally satisfied, the West Wind Knights of Mondstadt finally arrived here, and the central people of the Knights. A woman with a golden ponytail, who looked heroic, walked towards Kaya, Su Mo, and others. This is the acting leader of our West Wind Knights. Kaya introduced to everyone. We usually call her Leaderkin. 140 for the true Lord of the Flesh Curse. The fools arrived. Mondstadt welcomes you, the travelers who come with the wind. I am the acting leader of the West Wind Knights, Qin. This is Lisa, the librarian of the Knights. After coming to Su Mo, the acting leader Kin immediately introduced herself to them with a serious look. Although she is a woman, her capable posture does not seem weak. Instead, it makes people feel very tough. Are these two the heroes who froze the wind dragon? Lisa, dressed as a witch, looked at Su Mo and Ing with great interest and greeted them in a very friendly manner. Next, Kaya spoke up and told about what happened before. The others also exchanged a few words and knew each other's basic information. I would like to ask, can you leave the matter of the wind dragon to our knights? After learning that Su Mo and Ing were adventurers, Kin asked a little nervously, I have no intention of asking for the spoils of adventurers, but the wind dragon, after all, it was once one of the 4 wind guardians of Mondstadt. Since it is no longer a threat to Mondstadt, I hope we won't hurt it for the time being, but conduct further investigation. Kin knew Teverin's identity very well. Therefore, she had great respect for the East Wind Dragon who saved Mondstadt from the claws of the poisonous dragon Durin. So she didn't really want to hurt the Wind Dragon. According to convention, the prey taken down by adventurers should belong to the adventurers. But Teverin was really special. She didn't want this 4 Wind Guardian to die so confusedly. So she hoped that Su Mo and Ing would not take action against the Wind Dragon for the time being. At least they had to investigate the specific situation. Hearing what Captain Kin said, Su Mo and Wendy looked at each other. 293, he could see the smile in Wendy's eyes. It seemed that the Wind God was very happy with Kin's decision. To be honest, the leader of the Knights. Wendy wandered in front of Su Mo and continued. In fact, we didn't intend to really hurt Teverin. That's why we deliberately froze Teverin into ice. Otherwise, my friend named Su Mo would have killed Teverin in one move. Wendy patted his chest and looked proud. Kill Teverin in one move. After hearing his words, Chapter 160 Captain Kin couldn't help but look at Su Mo and Ing aside. With her strength, it is not particularly difficult to deal with the current Wind Demon Dragon as long as it doesn't fly away. However, such a giant dragon can be dealt with in one move. That would be a complete fantasy. I'm afraid even Fengshen himself may not be able to do this. However, Kin didn't think Wendy's words were lies. After all, just now, the Wind Demon Dragon was frozen into an ice sculpture in an instant. It is indeed not impossible for someone who can do this to defeat Teverin in one move. Thinking of this, Kin bowed her head and thanked her. Thank you for your understanding, but I'm a little curious. Why do you want to protect Teverin? As a Mondstadt, he would naturally show mercy to Teverin. But Su Mo and Ing in front of me should be foreigners, right? Kin did find it a little strange for a foreigner to make such a choice. Hear the question? Su Mo turned his attention to Wendy. It's your turn, he urged. Okay. This time Wendy no longer tried to fish, but took the initiative to stand up. The one who can influence the brave, Afta. And the princess is naturally me, the bard. It was precisely because I conveyed Teverin's past poems to these two that they were influenced by me, and instead of killing Teverin, they froze it. Wendy began to brag about herself. Unfortunately, these words were directly exposed by Paimon. Totally wrong. The reason why we believe you is just because you can talk to the dragon. As soon as Paimon said these words, several people in the West Wind Knights were stunned. Can you talk to the dragon? Kin looked at Wendy in front of her with some confusion. Lisa also gave him a strange look. Facing the attention of everyone, Wendy looked like, don't make a fuss. I'm the best bard in the world. There's nothing surprising about being able to talk to a giant dragon, right? He spread his hands, looking innocent. No, that's weird. The upright Amber couldn't help but complain. To be able to talk to such a huge wind demon dragon is really impressive just for your courage. Captain Kin on the side also said it very seriously. The wind demon dragon has been very irritable recently. It is indeed very unusual to be able to talk to such a wind demon dragon. Originally, a few people didn't care about Wendy who had no contribution. After hearing that he could talk to dragons, they understood why Su Mo wanted to team up with this bard. It turned out that he was interested in his ability to communicate with Teverin. Can I ask about the communication between the wind demon dragon Teverin and you? Kaya narrowed her eyes and asked the key points. Okay, Wendy had no intention of hiding it at all. After communicating with Teverin, I realized that Tevlin has a deep resentment towards Mondstadt. After saying this, neither Kin nor Lisa looked good-looking. The Dragon of the East, which protects Mondstadt, actually resents Mondstadt. They felt that it must be because Mondstadt had been too peaceful in recent years. So much so that all the temples guarded by the four winds were abandoned. After Tevlin woke up and found that he had been abandoned, his love turned to hatred. If this is really the case, looking at it this way, the people of Mondstadt are a bit ungrateful. Not a glamorous thing. I saw the expressions on several people's faces. Wendy took in all of it but didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to speak in a brisk tone. After communicating, I found out Tveren's resentment towards Mondstadt is not natural. It's the product of corrosion. That is to say, it is very likely that Tevlin still has wounds left by the poisonous dragon Dulin. In addition, it was instigated by the mastermind behind the scenes. That's why Tevlin attacked Mondstadt irrationally. Having said this, Kin and others breathed a sigh of relief. If this resentment was instigated by evil people, it would make them feel less heavy. If it is a natural resentment, as Mondstadt's, they had no face to face it. If the enemy did it, you can try your best to use your strength. After listening to Wendy's words, Kin also showed a look of understanding. So, you froze the wind demon dragon specifically just to find Tevlin's wounds. Wendy nodded. Then he jumped directly onto Tevlin's neck with a hey. Besides, I have already found this wound. Look, everyone, this red poisonous stinger should be the wound left by the poisonous dragon Dulin. This wound should be the source of Tevlin's dramatic change in temperament. The position at Wendy's feet was in the center of Tevlin's neck. That purple-red barb does exude an ominous aura. It seems to be somewhat toxic. See this part. Kin immediately believed Wendy's words. If this thing is the source of Tevlin's pain, is it possible that as long as this wound is purified, Tveren can return to his original appearance? She couldn't help but guess so. I thought so too. Wendy nodded in agreement, seeing that the other people had no objections. Kin immediately said to Amber beside her, Amber, go to the West Wind Cathedral and invite Barbara over. The power of the prayer priest may be able to heal the wind dragon's wounds. Hearing Kin's order, Amber immediately saluted. Yes, Captain Kin. Then, he ran all the way to the West Wind Cathedral behind him. The power of the prayer priest should not be able to remove the poison. When he shook his calf and shook his head. However, Teveren does need to be treated now, and it's not bad to let the prayer priest come. Wendy knew the poison in Teveren's body. It was definitely not something that the prayer priest could solve. Even he felt that the poison was tricky. However, Teveren had been fighting at the cost of his life for so long. It was indeed a good thing to be able to heal him. And Su Mo was very interested in the upcoming Barbara. Barbara, the flesh and blood, curse-removing true lord. He is very cute in the game, but I wonder what he would be like in reality. Just when everyone was waiting for Barbara to arrive. Tap, tap, tap. The crisp sound of high heels stepping on the ground rang out. A hint of coolness suddenly appeared in the air. At the same time, the buzzing of mosquitoes could be heard. A group of people wearing exotic costumes and dressed in very unusual styles directly and forcefully separated the cordon of the West Wind Knights. Walked towards the direction of the Wind Dragon. The Fatui, Chapter 161, after seeing the leader. Captain Kin frowned, sensing a troublesome aura. Tveren was frozen behind. If the fools come here at this time, they must have no good intentions. As expected of Mondstadt City, there are many capable people, and even the Wind Demon Dragon can be defeated. The 8th seat of the 11 executives of fools. The woman called Ms. walked over step by step. Looking at the frozen Wind Demon Dragon, her expression changed slightly. The smile on his face was even brighter and colder. Congratulations to the Knights of the West Wind for finally solving the dragon disaster. Although we can't help, we still wish you well. These two sentences are quite human. Everyone listened and was fine. The next sentence, Kin's expression immediately changed. As allies, we fools don't ask for much. We are willing to spend enough mola to buy the heart and minions of the Wind Demon Dragon. Excuse me, what do you think of this deal? As soon as he opened his mouth, he wanted to kill the wind demon dragon and get its body. 145 Lady threatens. Su Mo takes action. The other Knights of the West Wind do not know Tveren's past. He didn't know that this wine demon dragon fell into a deep sleep because of Mondstadt. Therefore, they were simply happy to see the wind demon dragon being dealt with. For Captain Qin and the heroes who defeated the wind demon dragon, they wanted to save Tevelin's life. They all felt a little surprised. Although I'm not in conflict with it, I still feel very puzzled. But now, the lady who makes fools speaks like this. The Knights of the West Wind Knights immediately showed expressions of common hatred. Even if Tevelin attacks Mondstadt, that's also the Mondstadt's own business. Anyway, the Wind Demon Dragon did not cause any casualties, at most some property damage. Moreover, the Wind Demon Dragon has now been captured. There will be no further damage. How to deal with this giant dragon? How to deal with this Dongfeng Guardian? That was a matter between them, Mondstadt and the heroes of the Frozen Dragon. How can you, the fools, be here to guide you? Not to mention, as soon as the fools opened their mouths, they wanted to kill this Eastern Dragon. This made the Knights of the West Wind Knights subconsciously side with Captain Qin and Su Mo. You want to kill me, but I won't kill you. Even Qin couldn't think of the thoughts in her heart that she thought she couldn't express. In this way, under the pressure of the fools, he gained everyone's support. So Qin immediately gave a strong answer. Impossible. How to deal with the Wind Demon Dragon is something we and the travelers need to discuss. Besides, we have no intention of killing Tveren. Miss, madam, you'd better give up on this idea. For Jean's answer, Ms. the Fool's executive was not surprised. Huh? Don't you want to kill the Wind Demon Dragon? She smiled. The air around me became a little colder again. Despair. The high heels hit the floor, and Ms. took a step forward. Followed closely, 10 hooded debt processors, as well as 8 laying warlocks and a group of new soldiers. They all followed her footsteps and walked forward. The oppressive power of elite members of the Fools. The Knights of the West Wind Knights suddenly felt the pressure, especially with the bone-chilling executive lady in front. It was hard to breathe and couldn't help but retreat. At this critical moment, Jean stood up, blocking the lady's path. What do you want to do? She asked very warily. What do you want to do? Do you still need to say this? The executive ma'am smiled evilly. As the leader of the Fools, I just want to help my allies deal with the aftermath. She said in a tone as cruel as a poisonous snake. The Knights of the West Wind on Mondstadt's side shot down the Wind Demon Dragon. Then, the executive officer of the Fools will completely kill this disaster beast. What do you think of this script? Her intentions were clear. Although the Wind Demon Dragon has been frozen and has lost its mobility, but it itself is still a disaster beast that harms Mondstadt. In this case, the lady acted as an ally and killed the Wind Demon Dragon Tevelin. If word got out, not only would no one think she was stirring up trouble, instead, she will think that she really helped her allies. It also makes Mondstadt owe the Fools a favor. It can be said that it accomplishes multiple things with one stone. What's more important? If this is the case, it is natural for the West Wind Knights to give part of the body of the Wind Demon Dragon as a trophy to us fools, right? Ma'am said with a smile on her face. The content of the words was very irritating. Not only must he kill the Wind Demon Dragon in front of Qin, she would also like to have the Knights of the West Wind express their gratitude. In fact, he didn't even want to spend the money. He just wanted the material of the Wind Demon Dragon for free. This kind of behavior is simply too much and too shameless. Even if it costs some money, spend more. It doesn't cost much money either. There is obviously a better way, but we still do this, which is simply disgusting. The surrounding Favonius Knights were all furious. They wanted to spit at her. Unfortunately, they didn't dare to do so. After all, both the debt collector and the laying warlock were a bit overpowered. Ordinary Favonius Knights were basically no match for them. They couldn't even beat the soldiers. Not to mention the lady executive. Fortunately, Jean and Kia were here. The two blocked the lady's way, put their hands on the sword, but they didn't dare to draw it. After all, the Favonius and the Favonius Knights were allies. They couldn't draw their swords before the other party showed their weapons. Not to mention, Now, the main forces of Mondstadt are basically not there. It's really hard to compete with the Favonius. As leaders, they must not intensify the conflict with the Favonius now. Jean is not a weak leader, but she is never reckless. If the lady took out her weapon, she would naturally not be patient. She would directly choose to decide the winner based on strength. With her strength, she was not particularly afraid of the opponent. However, the problem came. The lady could not show her weapon at all, because she was a mage. Therefore, as long as she hadn't launched an attack, Jean and Kia would not be able to fight back. So, Chapter 162, Despair. Ms., the executive officer of the Fools, continued to take 3 steps forward. Kin and Kaya also had to take 3 steps back. Situations are stronger than people. Now that Mondstadt is so weak, neither Jin nor Kaya was motivated. Forbearance. Shura, you have to be patient. However, there is an end to an ambiguous concession. Originally, they were very close to the Wind Demon Dragon. After taking 3 steps back, he even retreated directly to the claws of the Wind Demon Dragon. Behind them was the Wind Demon Dragon, and they had no way to retreat. And this time, the ma'am doesn't need them to back off either. The Laying Warlock and the Debt Processor have formed a circle around Tveren's head. Just wait for the ma'am order. And the ma'am order came soon. After restraining Kin and Kaya, she immediately ordered coldly, "Do it!" "Yes." His subordinates immediately knelt down to accept the order. Then, facing the frozen Wind Demon Dragon, he showed his weapon. Zero asked for flowers. Zero Laying Warlock's mosquitoes, flashing with crackling lightning, also began to move. Kin and Kaya, whose expressions changed drastically, immediately activated the Eye of God and prepared to stop them. At this moment, they were about to take action. A man's voice sounded. You want to take action on my trophies?" At some point, Su Mo, who appeared on Tevelin's head, asked softly to the fools at his feet. His voice is not loud. If you are a little further away, you may not be able to hear it. However, no one dares to ignore it, because the moment he finished speaking, the lightning mosquitoes that made a buzzing sound were annihilated into dust in an instant. Laying Warlock and Dead Executor, these elite members. It was as if an invisible hand was holding its throat, and it floated directly up, 3 feet above the ground. No matter how painfully they struggled, they could not escape the lock of the invisible hand. Behind them, at the same time, all the fools were restrained all over their bodies by invisible air currents, and then were hung up. Just a moment. Except for Ms. All the soldiers of the fools have lost their combat effectiveness. Su Mo can kill everyone with just one thought. After realizing this, everyone looked at the man on the dragon's head in awe. He is indeed a man who can freeze a giant dragon. In front of a crowd of fools, they are as helpless as children. The executive officer, Ms. naturally saw this scene. Her face instantly darkened. There was unconcealable hostility in Su Mo's eyes. She could just kill the fool's soldiers in an instant. She could do this too, so she wasn't too afraid of Su Mo's strength. However, if Kin joins forces with this strange man, it will be difficult. Realize this. Madam asked with a hint of chill in her tone. Traveler, do you want to make enemies of the fools in our winter kingdom? Here it comes, the lowest behavior among villains. Use force to overwhelm people. Ms. originally didn't bother to do this. She only needed her own name and strength to overwhelm others. But it's different now. Although he could do that, Su Mo's strength was not necessarily weaker than his own. Using strength to overpower people will have no effect. It's better to just move out of the backstage. Fools! Hearing what she said, Su Mo became a little interested. This organization is quite interesting. Ms. saw Su Mo's disinterested expression and thought he didn't understand the fools. So I explained, I occupy the 8th seat among the 11 executive officers of the fools. There are 10 more people who are as strong as me. Are you sure you want to be our enemy? Speaking of this, she looked very arrogant. It seems that he has seen Su Mo shrinking. The 11 executive officers of the fools, their strength is second to none among the human kingdoms in the entire Teyvat continent. It is precisely because of their strong military strength that the fools are able to be so arrogant in diplomacy. It made the Knights of the West Wind fearful. Even national-level organizations are very afraid of military strength. It is impossible to provoke an individual. Even if the other party is the Frozen Wind Demon Dragon, he is still talented. 146 Ms. is showing off her health bar. Captain Kin is extremely witty. Hear the words. Ms. Su Mo felt a little funny and shook his head. Being your enemy? Of course not. Before he could continue, the ma'am had already sneered. Oh, she knew that no one dared to disobey the fools. Even if he is a strong one with the Frozen Wind demonic dragon. So what? Do you dare to make enemies of the fools, Winter Kingdom, and Ice Queen? That's fine. Those who know the current affairs are heroes. Compared to the fragile country of Mondstadt, I think our winter country may be more suitable for you. Do you want to come to our place to develop? After seeing the other person back off, Ms. went one step further and actually issued a declaration to recruit Su Mo. Hearing her words, Kin, Kaya, and others were immediately anxious. Their faces turned green. Just like the victim who was NTR'd in front of Xiaowangia. Moreover, he was poached by Huang Mao in front of him and asked who was bigger, similar to this complex and distorted expression. After getting anxious, they were not qualified to let Su Mo refuse this invitation. They could only watch helplessly. So his expression became more anxious. If Su Mo joined the other side in turn, then it would really be powerless to save the situation. Fortunately, 293 Su Mo did not plan to change jobs. The first reason was that he could not leave alone. The second reason was that he had always remembered the grudge. Before crossing over, the guy Lady kicked Wendy in front of him. Su Mo always remembered it vividly. If Lady dared to show her health bar at that time, even if he took drugs and Krypton gold, Su Mo would have killed this guy 8 or 10 times. Now, the living lady is right in front of him. Chapter 163, although she hasn't had time to do those things yet. However, she has already been showing off in front of Su Mo. Can this be tolerated? Of course this cannot be tolerated. Su Mo ignored the solicitation of the lady and continued to speak leisurely. It's not that I want to be an enemy of you, but have you considered whether to be an enemy of me? You Fatui, the kingdom of winter, and your Ice Queen, are you ready for this? Su Mo's expression was very relaxed. It was so relaxed that it didn't even seem like a threat. However, everyone present couldn't say a word. The invisible pressure was above everyone. The slight storm that was still raging stopped in an instant. The atmosphere became extremely dull, and everyone's heart seemed to be pressed tightly by a heavy stone, making it difficult to breathe. At the same time, people were horrified to find that the sky suddenly changed color, as if the world was angry. The dark clouds covered the entire sky. The thick clouds were as heavy as lead ink. The dark clouds were pressing down on the city and were about to destroy it. Under this extremely dull pressure, people dared not make even the slightest sound, for fear of angering a certain existence, and felt this pressure deep into the bone marrow. Even a proud lady could not help but feel a strong sense of awe. In a moment, the sky and the earth changed color. Even the Queen of Winter could not do such a thing. Lady looked at Su Mo in horror, finally realized that she seemed to have provoked a formidable enemy. She immediately asked in a trembling voice, "Who are you?" Before she finished speaking, she was interrupted. It was not someone's voice that interrupted her, but a thunder. Boom! The dazzling purple thunder, like a sword of heavenly punishment, fell from the dark clouds. It chopped straight at the body of Lady. The Fatui's executive officer only had time to use the ice to slightly cover himself. He was directly swallowed by the violent thunder. He didn't have time to scream. Boom! The violent thunder kept coming down from the clouds. The dazzling lightning pillars struck her again and again. There were dozens of thunders. The clouds slowly returned to calm. At this time, Su Mo spoke. You just need to answer yes or no. I will choose whether to regard your country of winter as my enemy based on your answer. Besides that, no other words are needed. To deal with the domineering Fatui, you have to be more domineering than the Fatui. Seeing the arrogant Fatui in the past being taught a lesson like this, the Knights of Favonius felt a hint of pleasure in their hearts. In addition to pleasure, they also had a hint of doubt in their hearts. Paimon, who was standing by, also had the same doubt. Su Mo, if you chop her down like this, that bad woman won't be able to survive, right? What are you still asking her? Paimon curiously circled around Su Mo. After seeing his godlike power, she could still get close to him without any scruples. Besides Ing, it's probably only Paimon. In this respect, Paimon is still quite cute. So, Su Mo rubbed Paimon's little head and answered patiently. The power of lightning is indeed powerful, but in the elemental reactions of this world, it is sometimes easily restrained by the ice element. Not to mention, due to some special reasons, lightning skills have always been ineffective. Plus, this woman has the power given by the Queen of Winter, so she won't die so easily. Ice can break the lightning shield. Su Mo didn't know the specific principle, but this rule existed in this world. Maybe it was using the power of superconductivity to transfer lightning to the ground? In addition, the thunder system was a bit weak, and Su Mo himself had no intention of killing, but just wanted to teach her a lesson. Madam was still alive after the bombardment of thunder and lightning. However, although she was still alive, but she was not completely alive. In short, she was in a state of serious injury and half dead. After the ice layer that protected herself dissipated, Madam lay on the ground in a mess, her body charred. This look, just like she had mocked Wendy before, was like a stray dog on the side of the road. What? Have you considered how to answer? Su Mo's cold voice came. The madam was so scared that she trembled directly. She was about to say no. At this time, she remembered what Su Mo said before. Enduring the pain in her body, Madam suddenly propped herself up from the ground, sitting up in shock from her dying illness. Then she shouted, "No, we have absolutely no intention of being your enemy." Then, she finally couldn't bear the injuries on her body. Bang! And fainted on the ground. Seeing that the other party was scared, Su Mo didn't mean to beat the fallen dog. He just waved his hand and let the other Fatui down. The Fatui, who regained their freedom, immediately gathered around the lady and surrounded her. Then he looked at Su Mo with vigilance and helplessness. They really wanted to be on alert. They have been taught to fight even when trapped. This is the education they have received since childhood. However, in front of Su Mo, none of them dared to raise their weapons again. Therefore, we can only look at each other. He looked aggrieved, weak, and helpless. It was an eye-opener for Jean, Kaya, and others. This was the first time they saw the arrogant fool being defeated. For some reason, they felt very happy when they saw this scene. Kin suppressed the smile on her face and walked to Su Mo calmly. Then asked, "Mr. Su Mo, what are you going to do with these fools?" Random. Su Mo shook his head and said very freely, "They were just looking for trouble, so I just retaliated. Now that they've all given up, I'm too lazy to kill them all. After all, the Queen of Winter Kingdom should be planning to fight against the laws of heaven. Maybe they're actually teammates. Teaching a lesson is enough. There is no need to actually kill people." Hearing Su Mo's words, Kin nodded immediately. "I see." Then she immediately walked up to the crowd of fools, under the alert and fearful eyes of fools. Chapter 164. Kin forced herself to look serious and spoke seriously. While visiting the statue of the God of Winds, MS, the executive officer of the Fools, unexpectedly encountered extreme weather and was hit multiple times by thunderstorms. Unfortunately, she was seriously injured. In this regard, our Knights of the West Wind express our sympathy and condolences and hope that your executive can recover as soon as possible. Is this what happened today? What is telling lies with open eyes? This is telling lies with open eyes. Ms. was almost killed by lightning, but in the mouth of the piano, it was just an accident. Just a so-called extreme climate disaster. Hear her words, "Don't fool everyone." Even Amber of the Knights of the West Wind couldn't stand it anymore. It turns out that Captain Kin has such a cunning side. She couldn't help but murmur to herself. The girl's young mind was greatly shocked. Well done, as expected of Captain Kin. Kaya, however, looked like she wanted to applaud Kin, obviously agreeing with her words. The Grand Leader's vision is indeed correct. Lisa also nodded, looking 3.0 in approval. And compared to them, the atmosphere here among the fools is very wrong. They were aggrieved, weak, helpless, but very angry. Hearing what Kin said, the fools, who had never been wronged before, became even more angry. What the hell dash, the dead handler is subconsciously preparing to use expletives. But he saw Kin's extremely dangerous eyes. He immediately changed his tune tactfully. You are a Mondstadt knight riding on horseback. I am a solstice soldier crossing the mountains. We are allies and a family. It would be too hurtful to express our sympathy and condolences. In the witness of the eternal friendship between our two countries, please allow us to take the lady who is snoozing on the floor back to the hotel. Good guy. Aram's quite a bit. It changed in his mouth. The lady, who was knocked unconscious by lightning, turned into a little girl sleeping on the floor. Is Ms. S maiden name Shang? Jean wanted to laugh, but she held it in. This is very powerful, worthy of being the leader of the group. You guys please take it easy. Saying this, she easily sent the fools away. A stretcher was also given as a friendly gift. The fools were carrying the stretcher in a very awkward manner, but when they were telling lies before, they were really handsome. 147. The Wind Demon Dragon recovers. His Royal Highness in the abyss after the fools all fled in embarrassment. Can look happy and thanks Su Mo again. Even Kaya couldn't help but smile on her face. It seems that everyone hates those fools. Paimon saw everyone's expressions and became curious. Because those guys from the fools are too bullying. Amber, who rushed back, heard Paimon's words and immediately answered. Behind her, Barbara, dressed as a prayer priest, was holding her knees and panting. It looked like they were trotting all the way here. After recovering, Barbara first cast her sights on Kin. Sister, Captain Kin called me here. Is there any mission? Because she was in a hurry to go out, Barbara didn't even ask Amber what happened. That's right, Barbara. Jean immediately explained the situation to Barbara. Ah, Frozen Wind Demon Dragon. Barbara then turned her attention away from Captain Kin. After seeing the Wind Demon Dragon eye sculpture behind them, they couldn't help but cover their mouths, very shocked. Then, her eyes immediately focused on Su Mo and Ing. Are these two the heroes who subdued the Wind Demon Dragon? Looking at the two of them, Barbara's eyes were full of longing. She also wants to be so powerful and help her sister. Hello. Ing, Su Mo, and Barbara said hello, seeing the familiar white silk on Barbara's body. Su Mo finally found his original intention of playing Genshin Impact. What did you spend the longest time on gaming? Draw a card? Fighting monsters? Make a copy? Running 0-5 plot? None. Instead, he controls the female character to fly down from the top of the church and then admires the beautiful white silk stockings. In the real world, there is no such self-regulatory system. In other words, it will not blur when viewed from the bottom up. Su Mo has a bold idea, but he didn't take action. After all, I'm still not familiar with the real curse breaker in the physical body. When it becomes more mature later, it won't be too late to take action again. When I think about it, Paimon looked at Su Mo and tilted his head. I always feel that Su Mo has a weird expression, as if he is thinking about something bad. The emergency food instinct is indeed terrifying. Unfortunately, it was ineffective against Su Mo. I was wondering, Paimon, when will you grow up? Su Mo said with a wicked smile. When you grow up, I will eat you in one bite. Eat in every sense of the word. Don't say such scary things. Paimon, who didn't understand Su Mo's intentions, was just a little annoyed. But I thought he was just joking, so I didn't panic much. Su Mo didn't want to alert others, so he didn't continue talking. And on the other side, Barbara has arrived in front of the Wind Demon Dragon's neck. After seeing the purple-red stinger, she immediately frowned. What a deep poison. It stings a little just looking at it. Even through the eyes, she could sense the power of the poison. Barbara shook her head regretfully. Sorry, sister. I may not be able to solve this toxicity. Finally, I was able to help Captain Kin, but she couldn't do it because of lack of strength, which made her very frustrated. The toxicity that even Barbara can't remove. After hearing her words, Jean was very surprised. For a moment, I didn't know what to do. At this time, Wendy spoke. Even if the poison cannot be eliminated, it would be good to treat Tevelin. Tevelin's current state is burning his life and cannot be allowed to continue. If it's just for treatment, no problem. Barbara immediately nodded and agreed. In terms of treatment, she is professional. Only across the ice, she couldn't cast healing spells. See her like this. Su Mo stepped forward and pressed the ice around the neck of the wind demon dragon with one hand. Soon, the ice near the stinger melted directly. Direct contact with air. Chapter 165, allowing Barbara to perform the treatment. Under the restraint of other ice layers. Even if the skin on the neck is exposed, the wind dragon can hardly struggle. However, there is still some room for movement. Roar! Aware that the ice layer on his neck was untied. Someone was standing on the vital point of his neck. The wind dragon thought that these humans were going to behead him directly. It immediately let out a dull roar. The eyes also turned red, staring at Wendy in front of him with great anger. Twarin never thought the wind god Barbados would actually watch himself being beheaded by humans one day and remain indifferent. Suffering made it lose its mind. Betrayal made it full of anger. Faced with the fear of impending death, it struggled hard. It wanted to tear Wendy and the knights in front of it into pieces. Then, in this ice layer that was stronger than steel, it had no room for resistance. Finally, in this frenzied, dying struggle, the wind demon dragon suddenly found that there was a very cool and moist feeling on his neck. The vitality that was constantly dissipating was also replenished. The pain of beheading that he expected did not come at all. Teverin was stunned. "Aren't you coming to kill me?" He made a dull sound, but it was a language that everyone in Mond could understand. Of course not. In front of Teverin, Wendy plucked the strings of the harp to comfort her old friend, then shook her head gently. "I'm your friend. How could I come to kill you? We're here to save you." Teverin, on Teverin's neck. Barbara kept using healing magic, working very hard. And Kin, Kaya, and others on the side also showed worried looks. They didn't have weapons in their hands. Even Ing and Su Mo, who had fought with him and frozen him before, didn't seem to be planning to attack. Teverin realized that he seemed to have made a mistake. "Are you here to save me? But why? This is different from what that guy said before." It immediately remembered that after it woke up, the furry little thing had been circling around it. It was the Abyss Mage who told it that it had been abandoned. It was also the Abyss Mage who told it that it should seek revenge. But the scene in front of it now, it seems to be different from what that guy said. When the Wind Demon Dragon gradually realized something, Su Mo, who was standing next to Barbara, looked at Ing below. "Ing, come and try." He remembered that Ing should have special purification abilities. She should be able to solve the poison of the Abyss on Teverin. Me? Ing was a little surprised. She didn't have any healing skills. However, at Sumo's call, she still jumped up gently. Then, she reached out to the location of the poisonous blood that even Barbara didn't dare to touch directly. The moment Ying's little hand touched the poisonous blood, a bright purifying light lit up. The purple-red, extremely corrosive poisonous blood was purified directly under her hands. 10 seconds later, the poisonous blood on Teverin's body was completely purified and removed. Amazing! Barbara looked at Ing in surprise. Such a strong poison can be purified just by contact? As expected of a hero who can fight a dragon, 293 is really strong. Ing, who was shrouded in the surprised eyes of everyone. She showed a blank expression. Why can I do this? She herself didn't know the reason. Just a touch. All the poison was purified. Maybe it's because of the physique. Su Mo touched his chin and said, Ying's ability should also be related to Ying's identity. However, she is now in a state where both her power and memory are sealed. She can't find much if she wants to explore. In any case, the poison of the abyss corrosion on Teverin was completely solved, and the injuries on his body were almost cured by Barbara. Afterwards, under Wendy's comfort, Teverin soon understood he was taken advantage of by others, and his mind was affected by others. The Wind Dragon was ashamed. Under Wendy's gentle encouragement, he told all his experiences, including the Abyss Wizard who lured him, and the prince mentioned by the Abyss Wizard. After listening to Teverin's words, Kin, Kaya, and others immediately showed a solemn look. It is worth being happy that Teverin was awakened. However, behind this, The mysterious organization that has been affecting Teverin has cast a shadow in people's hearts. What are those abyss wizards planning? And who is the so-called prince? I always feel that things have become very complicated. Paimon scratched his head, looking like he couldn't figure it out. His Royal Highness, the Prince of the Abyss cult, should be a villain of high status, right? Ing pondered for a moment and guessed. Su Mo nodded. Besides, this guy is his brother-in-law. However, it is better not to telling about this for the time being. 148 Honorary Knight treatment, who took kickbacks, completely purified the poison in the Wind Dragon. After resolving the misunderstanding, the Wind Dragon incident was finally resolved. The Knights of Favonius were very happy to have such a result. Finally, they didn't have to take action against the former guardian of the East Wind. However, for some reason, Su Mo did not thaw the Wind Dragon. Instead, he froze the part of the neck that had been thawed before. Make the Wind Dragon look exactly the same as before. After doing these things, he and Ing, Paimon, and Wendy were invited by Qin to go to the Knights of Favonius. After arriving at the Knights, Kiev directly brought 3 barrels of dandelion wine and placed them in front of Wendy. This is a thank you gift from the Knights of Favonius. Oh! Wendy's eyes lit up. She held the barrel tightly and refused to let go. Chapter 166. You are quite generous. These 3 barrels of wine are worth a lot of money. Ha! It's public money anyway. Kaya looked happy and said, besides, 1 barrel is a gift from the Knights of the West Wind. The other 2 barrels were given to you personally by a certain winery owner after hearing about your deeds. A certain winery owner, although he wanted to conceal his identity. But the only ones present were Paimon and Ing. It is estimated that no one can guess the identity of the other party. Dialek. Who else but him? Whoa! Paimon flew around the barrel in surprise. In other words, there are 2 barrels in it, and we have a share, right? She, who had always been stingy, realized this immediately. Although she doesn't like drinking much, but I don't want to just give up my due share to Wendy, an alcoholic. That's right, that's right. Kaya was stunned for a moment, then nodded to Paimon. It's just that minors are not allowed to drink. This is Mondstadt's rule. As he spoke, he lowered his voice and added, of course, the Knights of the West Wind have nothing to do with drinking in private. Looking at his skilled expression, you can tell that he must have been drinking secretly when he was a child. Kaya-senpai, Amber on the side, showed a dissatisfied expression after hearing what he said. You cannot instigate minors to drink. Mr. Su Mo would never do such a thing, right? After saying that, Amber looked at Su Mo with a look of reverence. Obviously, he admires this hero, who froze the Wind Demon Dragon and defeated the fools. Well, Su Mo hesitated, unable to live up to Amber's innocent eyes. Of course, I will prevent underage drinking. He nodded and agreed. Anyway, at Ying's age, she has already reached adulthood. Paimon's age is definitely not as young as he looks. The 2 of them can drink legally. Kelly and Diana are truly young girls. However, Su Mo felt that he couldn't do anything to get these 2 little guys to drink. Perhaps, after getting the dandelion wine, in order to prevent Wendy from escaping, Paimon directly received the 2 barrels of dandelion wine that belonged to them into the storage space. At this time, Qin, who had formally tidied up her attire, walked up to Su Mo and Ing, said very formally, on behalf of the Knights of the West Wind and the people of Mondstadt, I would like to thank the 2 heroes for their contribution. If you can, I hope you can accept our thanks and the title of Honorary Knight of the Knights of the West Wind. Here comes the mission reward. Knight of Honor? Paimon was a little surprised to hear this name. Sounds like a great position. Simply put, honorary knights can obtain honors and status comparable to those of formal knights. Kaya explained from the sidelines. But at the same time, in this critical moment, we need to help Mondstadt get through this. Usually you only need to hang on to a professional title to catch fish. Work is needed when it counts. Sounds like a very casual position. Only, what's the salary like? Su Mo asked. You won't be working for free, right? He doesn't want to continue to be an errand boy like in the game. I heard Su Mo say this. Qin showed a somewhat dumbfounded expression. Since ancient times, The awarding of honorary knights has been a very honorable matter. That is the desire of all Mondstadts, and is rarely denied. There is no example of directly asking about salary. But the situation in front of me is different. With the power of Su Mo and Ing, the title of honorary knight is really not certain as to who takes advantage of whom. Therefore, Kin didn't care when he asked. Instead, he explained patiently. The usual salary of an honorary knight is equivalent to the level of a knight squad leader. Weapons and equipment can also be taken care of by the logistics of the Knights of the West Wind. Except for helping Mondstadt in times of crisis, there are no restrictions on him. Honorary knight is naturally not a title that is just empty talk, but with corresponding treatment. And the salary package sounds really good. After listening, Su Mo's first reaction was, MiHoYo has done all kinds of bad things. He took a kickback from the benefits that King gave him. Can this be tolerated? Sounds great if you have this salary. They won't even have to do Adventurers Association quests in the future. The salary at the level of the Knight Squad leader is really not low. On the same level as Kaya, Eula, and others. Much taller than a scout knight like Amber. And you don't have to go to work. It's simply not too comfortable. Are Su Mo ready to agree? When Ing heard what Su Mo said, she couldn't help but ask. She was indeed a little moved. If Su Mo also wants to agree, then she was ready to agree directly without hesitation. Hearing Ing ask this question, Kin, Amber, Wendy, and others also looked expectantly. It seems that everyone hopes that Su Mo, a strong man with amazing combat power, can accept the title of honorary knight. However, Su Mo still hesitated. If he traveled around the 7 countries and carried the seals of the 7 countries, it would sound good. However, Su Mo still had doubts about the position of the 7 gods. The 7 gods participated in the destruction of the Canria civilization, although there must be a deeper inside story behind it. The current position of the 7 gods is also vaguely wanting to resist the law of nature. However, what did the 7 gods do when Canria was destroyed? If he didn't know this, he didn't think it would be a good thing to rashly join the position of the 7 countries. Becoming an honorary knight would only reduce the pressure on money. And for Su Mo now, money is not an important thing. In addition, probably he was trusted by Barbara and admired by Noel. He was also chased by Klee and called honorary knight brother. Hiss. Thinking about it this way, the honorary knight doesn't seem bad. Su Mo, a senior loli control, admitted that he was a little moved. At this time, seeing that he was a little hesitant, Captain Kin gave him a fatal blow. By the way, I heard that the 2 heroes don't have a place to live yet. Whether Mr. Su Mo is willing to accept the title of honorary knight or not, I am willing to give the 2 heroes a house as a personal gift. As the eldest daughter of the Gunhild family, Kin said so. Damn, is this the charm of rich people? Su Mo suddenly felt that he didn't want to work hard anymore. I do. Chapter 167, he immediately gave his answer. You don't have to work, you can get a super high salary and pay it back to the company that allocates housing. Where to find it? It's unreasonable to miss it. Then I'll accept it too. After seeing Su Mo's statement, Ing said immediately, we will have a place to live in the future. Paimon said very happily. After hearing the 2 heroes, he agreed to his request. Kin and others immediately showed happy expressions. At this moment, Su Mo remembered something. By the way, I have another unwelcome favor. Just say it. After accepting the title of honorary knight, Kin's tone became obviously much more friendly. I have done some research on alchemy, and I have always been curious about Mondstadt's alchemy. Su Mo said except for his own request. But if possible, I would like to meet the alchemist of the Mondstadt Knights. He has not forgotten his mission, learn the method of creation and promote alchemy to the forbidden realm of God. Alchemy, Kim was a little surprised. She didn't expect that this honorary knight with amazing strength was also an alchemist. However, Kim immediately agreed to his request. No problem. I will say hello to Abito, Sugar, and the others. In addition, there is also a lot of alchemy content in the Knight's library. If you're interested, you can go read it. A lot of information is actually confidential content within the Knights. But if it is Su Mo, an honorary knight, then people. Naturally, I have the right to borrow it. In this regard, Jean is very generous. After talking about alchemy, she and Barbara took Su Mo and Ing to the mansion that was going to be given to them. 149 finally met my uncle, Master Abyss, looking at the huge villa in front of me. Paimon and Ying's eyes widened, and they immediately fell silent. I heard before that a house was given away. They thought it was just a gift of a cabin. At most, what comes to mind is a small house. However, what appeared in front of them now was a huge villa. Courtyard, fountain, everything, still in the center of Mondstadt, not far from Aeolian Square. Seeing that Ing and Paimon were silent, Qin said, a little embarrassed, "This house is the property of the Gunhild family. Although no one has lived in it for many years, it is usually cleaned by a maid. Although it's not very big, this is the best located house for our family. But if you are not satisfied, you can change it to something else. In a place like the center of the city, where every inch of land is at a premium, even the Gunhild family cannot build a particularly huge villa like Morningside Winery. However, the house in front of me is definitely not small. Moreover, in terms of decoration, it is more generous and refined than Chintzy Winery." After hearing what Qin said, Paimon was dumbfounded. Redefine what not very big means. The entire hotel they stayed in for the past 2 days was not half as big as the house in front of them. In this villa, there are probably dozens of rooms on one floor. Only Su Mo was calm. This villa is indeed very big. But compared to the Chunsong pot given by immortal Li Yue, it was as big as several mountains. That completely pales in comparison. Having seen the big world, he would naturally not be moved by such a small scene. 293. Instead, set your sights not far away. It is obviously the same style and exactly the same size as this villa. "Who's that over there?" he asked curiously. "That's where Barbara and I are living now," Jean explained immediately. "In other words, are we neighbors?" Su Mo was a little surprised. Unexpectedly, the house Qin donated was right next to her own home. But yes, if it is the best location, they themselves will definitely live there. Ing and Paimon beside them were surprised by another point. "Captain Qin and Miss Barbara live together? What's going on?" Paimon asked, confused. "Sorry, I always forgot to introduce you." Only then did Qin realize that she seemed to have never said anything about the relationship between the two. "Barbara is my sister." Adash. Paimon was completely surprised. She approached the two of them in disbelief, looking left and right. "They do look similar, but their temperaments are so different that I never noticed them. After taking a closer look, I discovered that the two of them were indeed carved from the same mold. It's just that Barbara is a little younger." After learning the news, Ing was also very surprised. Afterwards, under the leadership of Qin, we visited the house. Both Ing and Su Mo were very satisfied. Moved in immediately. Qin and Barbara, on the other hand, took their leave at the right time. It always feels like a homey atmosphere. Sitting in the living room, holding tea, Ing suddenly sighed. "So Paimon is a child?" Su Mo looked at Paimon, who was curiously wandering around the room with some amusement, and picked it up casually. Ing immediately panicked. "Paimon is a child, so what is their relationship?" Was Su Mo hinting at this, or making it clear? Feeling a little at a loss, she hurriedly stood up. I'm going to cook," ran into the kitchen. "Hear this." Paimon suddenly appeared. "Want to eat?" "Okay." Her hearing was very keen when it came to food. Not long after, just finished cooking, there was a knock at the door. Wendy, Amber, Kaya, Jean, Barbara, and others came over with gifts to celebrate the 2 honorary knights. Su Mo suspected that they also came because of the aroma of Dao Ying's cooking. But there is no evidence. However, not all of them were empty-handed. In addition to gifts, everyone brought 1 or 2 dishes. There was also the fried pork with carrots and honey sauce that Kaya had originally agreed with Paimon. The dinner was quite lively. After having enough wine and food, Amber and Barbara both had work to do and left. Wendy, Qin, and Kaya stayed behind. Mr. Su Mo deliberately left Tevelin in Fengshan Square. Jean took the initiative to get down to business. "Are you waiting for the mastermind to arrive?" Chapter 168. As the leader of the Knights, she naturally cannot stay here to chat, and she was also very concerned about the matter of Fongmalo. According to Teverin's previous words, there is an abyss mage who is attracting it to fall. In other words, behind the evil fall of Tevelin was the careful planning of the evil organization. Naturally, she would not sit idly by and ignore this organization. He also immediately guessed the deep meaning of Su Mo's previous behavior. That's right. Su Mo nodded. If the masterminds are not willing to give up the Dragon Farron, they will definitely come tonight. It seems that we have thought of it together. Kaya smiled and nodded, except for the two innocent girls Amber and Barbara. Several other people did not regard this dinner as a simple celebration. Except, of course, the silly Paimon. Only now did Paimon become aware of their plans. Are you arresting criminals late at night? You guys, after, obviously didn't communicate with each other, but you all thought of going together. Is this a tacit understanding between smart people? Paimon felt that his brain was almost exhausted. Hear her say that. Ing smiled lovingly and pinched Paimon's cheek. Maybe it's because Paimon is too stupid. Hey, is there any? Paimon was shocked. She always thought she was quite smart. While several people were chatting and laughing, the time soon reached night. I saw the bright moon above my head, hidden in the dark clouds. Su Mo and others looked at each other and nodded. Go out together. Then, like a gecko, he climbed onto the roof of the building in front of him. Sure enough, this is the correct way for travelers to act. On the roof, covered by the night, the wait was less than 10 minutes. They saw several furry figures sneaking up on Function Square. This is the Abyss Mage. Jean immediately identified her enemy. There's actually more than one. Kai was also a little surprised. Everyone, it's time to take action. Wendy reminded. Otherwise, the patrolling knights will be in danger. Understood. X2. Several people responded at the same time, unfolded their wings of wind, and jumped down. Watching Kin, Kaya, and Wendy floating down, Ing looked confused. She doesn't have those wind wings like a hang glider, but Su Mo's protection is temporary. She was able to fly with the help of airflow only under the protection, but now she couldn't fly at all. When she was climbing the stairs before, she felt a little strange. Looking at it now, it is true. Captain Kin and the others had no idea that they couldn't fly. Su Mo. Therefore, Ing couldn't help but turn her attention to Su Mo. Do you want to protect me again? Su Mo blinked and asked meaningfully. No need. Ing immediately shook her head, but his look and tone clearly didn't mean much to refuse. If Su Mo persists, maybe he can do it again. But my uncle is probably nearby. Su Mo felt that if he dared to protect Ing again in front of his uncle Gakong, it is estimated that my uncle led an army of 100,000 people from the abyss to fight over. This would be troublesome. So thought about it. He still gave up this behavior that would irritate his uncle. Regrettably, he chose to hug Ing directly and take her down. Feeling Ying's slender and soft waist, Su Mo felt this seemed good. When they arrived near the Wind Demon Dragon, Kin and Kaya have already begun the battle with the Abyss Mage. Wendy was fishing on the sidelines, occasionally throwing in skills. After the Firefly fell to the ground, joined the battlefield immediately. After a while, several Abyss Mages were captured. Kin and Kaya tried to interrogate the Abyss Master, but to no avail. They are very tough-mouthed, Paimon said with some surprise. And the language seems to be different. Is this the Abyss Mage? Ing was a little curious when he saw this creature for the first time. At this time, Su Mo suddenly noticed a fleeting sight. Didn't have time to say hello to everyone. The storm blew, and Su Mo's figure disappeared instantly. The next second, we arrived at the top of the tallest church in Mondstadt. After seemingly scanning for a week, he chose a direction and reached the heights of Mingguan Gorge. On the cliff where Mondstadt can be seen in the distance, several Abyss Mages are surrounding a man with long golden hair. Judging from the man's appearance, he is somewhat similar to Ing. You must be Ying's brother. Su Mo, who landed on the cliff, asked the young man. The thoughts in his heart were completely different from his calm expression. When I first met my uncle, how could I get him to entrust me with my sister? Waiting online, urgent. 150, the entrustment from the uncle, the waiting of the god killer on top of the cliff. The blonde boy, Sora, was surrounded by many Abyss Mages. After seeing Su Mo, the expression on his face was a little surprised. The Abyss Master on the side chirped a few words, but he was driven away directly. Then, Kong approached Su Mo, with a very gentle expression on his face. Su Mo, the hero of the Frozen Dragon. I have heard about you in the rumors in Mondstadt. Not only that, during the previous trip, I heard that my sister Ing has also been taken care of by you, right? He is obviously the leader of the Abyss. The expression on Sora's face was not gloomy, nor did he show signs of darkness or hysteria. On the contrary, his expression was very firm yet gentle. More than that, he doesn't look like a villain. He is simply a gentle protagonist. As the mastermind behind the scenes, after being discovered by Su Mo, he acted openly and unhurriedly. He even extended his hand to Su Mo, as if he wanted to shake hands in a friendly way. To be honest, Su Mo was very surprised and very fond of Kong's attitude. My uncle is so reasonable. Of course, it's a good thing. However, facing Sora's handshake, Su Mo subconsciously hesitated. Not that he found out that Sora was pretending or anything, simply because this guy just took advantage of his sister during the day. Chapter 169 now, there is a guilty conscience. Regarding what my uncle Sora said before, that my sister was taken care of by him, this matter. But he always felt that it was hinting at his evil thoughts towards Ing. I asked you to take care of me, but I didn't ask you to take care of me in bed, although they haven't reached this point yet. However, after hesitating for a while, Su Mo felt that his uncle should not know about it. Otherwise, he would have sent the Abyss mages around him to beat him up. Therefore, he also extended his hand generously. The two shook hands. Actually, I took better care of me before. Without her, I might not have survived, Su Mo said in a sincere tone. This is true. During that period of trekking in the mountains and wilderness, the only person with fighting ability was Ing. Paimon is the guide plus the oil bottle. Su Mo is a counselor plus an oil bottler. Without Ying's force, the two of them might not have survived alone. And heard Su Mo say this. Notice Su Mo's sincere tone. Sora felt better about his senses. His sister actually gained a partner who was so powerful and valued her companions so much from the very beginning. What a blessing. No matter what, I want to thank you for my sister, Sora said very sincerely. Su Mo was silent. My uncle is so naive. What should I do? He couldn't bear to hide it anymore. Fortunately, he has no conscience, so I finally endured it. Let's not talk about this aspect for now. Ing has been looking for you. Su Mo changed the subject and asked knowingly. If you haven't disappeared, why don't you come out to see her? Look for me again. Hearing Su Mo say this, Kong was silent for a moment. Then he shook his head. Now is not the time for us to meet. I once took a trip and traveled all over the world. Now, I have things I want to do. Ing and I will meet again eventually, but not now. But after Ing Ya traveled the whole world and had his own precipitation, worthy of being the Riddler. When he opened his mouth, a series of riddles came out. After saying that, Kong looked at Su Mo with a trusting expression. Originally, I was worried that Ing might be hurt too much during the journey. But if I have you as a partner, I don't have to worry about her safety. So, during this period, can you please travel with Ing to protect her safety? Kong had no worries at all about Su Mo's strength. Kong also had great trust in Su Mo's character. Being able to support each other with my sister during the most difficult period. And after finally awakening to power, I also deeply remember the care I gave you before. He believed that this man named Su Mo was definitely not a bad person. He could only be happy for his sister to have such a reliable companion. Thinking of the abyss of things to do on his side, he felt that he might be able to temporarily entrust his sister to Su Mo in front of him. Let him take care of it. It's better for me to concentrate on dealing with Tianli and not have to worry too much about my sister's affairs. Hiss. Su Mo was shocked when he heard Kong's words. My eldest uncle trusts me so much that he directly entrusts me with my life. He doesn't worry about buy one, get one free. In the end, he recognized not only his sister, but also his niece. Maybe more than one niece. Don't worry, just leave it to me. He immediately took on this important task. Very good. Kong was very happy to hear Su Mo's firm answer. With a strong man like Su Mo taking care of Ing, he could finally feel more at ease. Since you don't plan to meet Ing, Su Mo thought for a while and asked, do you want to tell him what happened to you this time? No. Kong thought for a moment and shook his head. This is Ying's first time traveling alone, and it's also an opportunity for her to grow. You don't need to tell her too much about me. We will meet naturally at the end of the journey. Is this what your plan is? Su Mo nodded and agreed to his uncle's request. The elder brother-in-law even handed over his sister to him, just concealing your whereabouts. Isn't that trivial? Then, the two chatted for a while. After confirming the positions of both parties, they parted amicably. No one could have imagined it. The hero who saved Mondstadt, and the leader of an evil organization. After the two met, not only did they not conflict, their communication was so harmonious. Probably, this is the dark side of reality. After leaving Mingguan Gorge, Su Mo returned to Mondstadt. In the knight's office, Qin, Kaya, Wendy, Ing, and others are all waiting for him. Seeing Su Mo finally coming back, Paimon immediately asked curiously, Su Mo, did you discover something just now? Why is a person missing? Several other people also cared. Have you found the traces of the mastermind behind it? Kaya couldn't help but ask. Zero asked for flowers. Zero Su Mo nodded and answered truthfully. I noticed a strange sight, and after following it, I found someone watching here from Mingguan Gorge. When I arrived, I also found many traces of abyss mages, but I didn't attack rashly. After observing them for a while, I found that they didn't seem to be aggressive and left directly. What Su Mo said was 100% true. However, the scattered truths put together became an excellent lie. At least, Qin and Kaya didn't see anything. They were just very curious about the non-aggressive abyss mages. Unfortunately, we didn't get any information from the interrogation here. Qin shook her head. Let's go to Mingguan Gorge to explore again tomorrow, hoping to get useful information. Tonight's operation was half successful. After all, quite a lot of abyss mages were captured. It's just a pity that the so-called Prince Royal was not found. The purpose of the abyss cult is not too clear. However, the harvest this time is indeed not small. After sorting out the information with each other, Chapter 170, it was time to rest. Several people said goodbye to each other and left. Everyone returned to the warm room in the Wind God Square. Only the frozen wind dragon was shivering and waiting for Su Mo, who had fallen asleep, to thaw him. We agreed to let it go after the mastermind was found out. Why is there still no one after waiting for so long? Barbados, where have you been? In Mondstadt. Wendy, who was drinking dandelion wine in the tavern, sneezed, but he still didn't remember anything. He continued to drink with the drinkers. Then, he played the harp. He sang ancient poems. In the cold wind, the wind dragon Teverin began to doubt his life. Fortunately, the ice layer was soundproof. Otherwise, if Teverin, lying in the ice layer, heard Wendy's drunken and cheerful singing, he might go berserk again. Give sanctions to this unreliable Lord Wind God. In the original God world, Su Mo solved the Wind Dragon incident and successfully obtained the recognition of his brother-in-law. In the God Killer world, in the Villa Sardinia, why hasn't the Sword King come yet? Su Mo asked the young knight beside him boredly. I've been waiting for him for 2 days. Is that guy lost? Or dare to stand me up? If the other party deliberately stood him up, Su Mo will let the Sword King know what cruelty is. After killing the gods, I heard that the Sword King was coming to trouble him. Su Mo was naturally not afraid of this reckless man. Not to mention, the white horse incarnation of Velislana's Eastern war god power. The flames of the sun just restrained this guy's steel protection. So, Su Mo waited for that idiot here on purpose, prepared to use the reputation of the Sword King, a veteran god slayer, to establish his own majesty. However, he never expected it. After waiting for 2 days, that guy didn't come. After all, he is a god slayer. Shouldn't he have come by plane a long time ago? Just now, 151 the King of Swords' coquettish operation, hearing Su Mo's question. Liliana on the side shook her head, her light blue eyes slightly confused. Sorry, King. The specific reason is still under investigation. It stands to reason that the Sword King should have taken a special plane and rushed over from Antarctica. We have also contacted the Sword King's knight, Lord Andre, and conveyed your ideas to him. The Sword King had already boarded the special plane at that time, but for some reason, we couldn't contact him afterwards. Liliana Chronicle, a silver-haired knight princess known as the Sword Fairy. She is a genius famous in Italy, as famous as Erica. Before, when Su Mo was fighting against the god of disobedience, Mekhl, because the Magic Society judged that witches were needed, people with witch physique were recruited. Liliana was one of them, although Su Mo had already dealt with the god of disobedience when she arrived. But later, she was still kept by the new god slayer, the Demon King, Su Mo, who killed 2 pillars of gods at the beginning, because they had to deal with the upcoming battle between the Sword King and the new Demon King. So, she and Erica temporarily served as secretaries, responsible for conveying news and intelligence. At first, Liliana was very panicked. After all, God Slayers are very difficult to deal with. Whether it is the Nordic Wolf King Woban or the Sword King 293 Tony, they are huge shadows in the hearts of the European Magic Society. She originally thought that after being recruited by the Demon King, she would have to deal with a moody lord. However, the actual situation was far beyond her expectations. This new king seems to have none of the problems of other kings. Not only is he very reasonable, but his style of doing things is also very steady. It makes people feel good about him, even if he has to fight a decisive battle with the Sword King. This new king also took into account the loss of residents' property and environmental damage. He deliberately stayed in Sardinia, where residents had been evacuated. This is the first king who would consider social and economic losses, let alone Liliana. Even other magic societies, after hearing about this, couldn't help but burst into tears. Could it be that things will turn around when they reach their extremes? Is the 7th God Slayer a very loving and gentle person? No, even though they think it is unlikely. After all, those who can kill gods are ruthless, but it doesn't stop them from admiring him. At least, Su Mo's behavior has been filtered in Liliana's eyes. As for Su Mo's previous question, the silver-haired girl also felt very confused. According to the schedule that had been communicated, the Sword King should have come a long time ago. But when she contacted him, the Sword King's knight, Lord Andre, did not respond for a long time. For that capable knight, this is a very rare situation. Liliana didn't know what happened, so she could only entrust the local magic society to investigate. The results of the investigation should be out by now. Just as she was thinking this, knock, knock. There was a knock at the door. The 2 of them were in the study of the villa. There were people from the Magic Society outside the villa who were responsible for security, and only Su Mo and the 2 knights lived inside. At this time, there was only one person who could knock on the door. Erica, come in directly, Su Mo ordered. Squeak, the door opened. The girl knight with long golden hair and a face that rivaled Liliana immediately pushed the door in. If there is an emergency, I allow you to come in directly, Su Mo ordered, and then asked in confusion. There are only a few of us in the room, so there is no need to knock on the door specifically, right? Hearing Su Mo's words, Erica shook her head. That won't work. Not to mention that as your knight, you must abide by the etiquette to the master. Even if the master, you specifically allow me to offend. But after all, you and Liliana are inside. If there is any scene that is inconvenient for me to see, wouldn't it be bad if I push the door in? As for what is the scene that is inconvenient for her to see, she didn't elaborate, but Liliana understood immediately. The silver-haired knight's cheeks immediately flushed and steam faintly came out of her head. I don't know what was in her mind. She looked at Erica with shame and anger. Shut up, you shameless female vixen. You are tarnishing the king's reputation. The king will not be like you, with such things in his mind. If you talk nonsense again, I will chop you. In Liliana's mind, there was no strange plot of office play, domineering demon king falling in love with me, etc. Well, absolutely not. Seeing Liliana's angry looked like a kitten with fangs and claws. Chapter 171 Erica showed an innocent expression. What do you say again, Lily? When I talk about scenes that are inconvenient to see, I refer to things like confidential information. Where did you think of it? After saying this with a confused look, Erica pretended to be surprised and covered her mouth with an expression of disbelief. Oh yeah, I understand. You actually thought of that aspect. Hiss. I didn't expect that you, who looks innocent, would actually have that kind of thing in your head. TSK, TSK. That's it? Or a knight like Lily? As she spoke, she shook her head and looked like she was sighing. It seems to be saying, why are your thoughts so impure? Knocked down in an instant. Liliana would not think that she was wrong. After all, she has had this experience countless times. Erica definitely did this on purpose. You actually deliberately induced me in front of the king. The silver-haired knight G was extremely angry. But Su Mo was by his side, and as a knight, he couldn't draw his sword. So he had a good fight with Erica, the female fox. So she immediately turned around and knelt down on one knee to Su Mo. "O king, please allow me to defeat this arrogant female fox. Let me wash away this shame." She was very fond of Su Mo. He didn't want to be misunderstood by Su Mo as a knight with impure thoughts. She decided that this time she would sew the mouth of Erica, the female fox, shut. Let her know that some things can be said and some things cannot. See the daily farce of the two knights. Su Mo shook his head in amusement. "Erica, stop bullying Liliana. By the way, your acting skills just now were too exaggerated. I give you 79 points." Hearing what Su Mo said, Erica immediately stood at attention as if taking orders. Clear. There was still a slight smile on his face. You can tell at a glance that he is a habitual offender. As for Liliana, Su Mo looked at Knight G, who was kneeling in front of him. "You even take the bait like this. Sometimes I think you are too upright. Forget about fighting, leave the competitive stuff for next time. If you perform much better than Erica next time, I can consider giving you a chance to order Erica." Gently, Su Mo dropped the bait. "Really?" Liliana immediately raised her head, showing an expression of surprise. "You have no joke." Su Mo nodded 0. Hear this. The smile on Erica's face suddenly stiffened. "Lord," she asked, somewhat doubtful about life. "Obviously before. Didn't you enjoy seeing me bullying Lily? Why did you suddenly pull me into the water? Are you mistaken? I am your only knight." See her expression of doubt about life. Su Mo added amusedly. "The same applies to you. If you perform much better than Liliana next time, I can help you and bully Liliana for once." The reason why the two sides are treated differently. It's not because Su Mo favors one over the other. It was because Erica had already sworn allegiance to Su Mo 2 days ago. She belongs to Su Mo's direct knight, and Su Mo has complete ownership of her. The power to command Erica was originally his. But Liliana was different. She arrived on the island later, although she was also working as Su Mo's secretary. But strictly speaking, she is just an expatriate employee. There was no oath of allegiance. Therefore, Su Mo could only provide assistance. But, as a god killer, Su Mo said it was assistance, but in fact it was not much different from a direct order. After all, people on the ground are absolutely unable to resist the devil. After hearing what Su Mo said, Erica's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Lord." There are not many opportunities to bully Liliana in a legitimate way. For her, the conditions Su Mo promised were also quite tempting. As for whose side the victory will be in the future, Erica is full of confidence. She is a swordsman genius, a 16-year-old girl knight, and a person with excellent diplomatic skills. How could he lose to Liliana, a guy who has nothing but a sword and a witch physique? This time, she won for sure. Liliana also had the same idea. She is a knight with the physique of a witch. The next time we fight, if we can see reliable clues through our spiritual vision, we will definitely win. How could Erica, a guy who only dealt with magic associations, defeat him? The eyes of the two girls met, sparking fierce collisions. Under Su Mo's simple condition, their enthusiasm was immediately aroused. The art of controlling one's subordinates is as simple and unpretentious as 3.0. And boring. Right. Only then did Erica remember why she came here. She looked a little weird and handed the information to Su Mo. "My lord, there is an urgent call from Mr. Andre. The King of Swords seems not to know that you have agreed to his invitation to fight, and thought that Mr. Andre would stop him. So, when the plane flew near the port, the prince jumped directly from the plane." Hearing this information, Both Erica and Liliana, who was listening, showed speechless expressions because they were worried that Lord Andre would stop him. The King of Swords actually jumped directly from the plane. There is an endless sea below, and falling from a high altitude into the water is about the same as falling on the concrete floor. Even if the God Slayer doesn't die from the fall, this operation is too reckless. Won't he have to swim to the island afterwards? What kind of weird brain circuit can do such a thing? At first, when Erica got this information, she suspected that it was false information, because it was too ridiculous. But think about it carefully. Sword King Salvatore Tony seems to be able to do this. If it is him, it is really not surprising. 152 Misty Space, the newcomer is actually me? After hearing Erica's report, Su Mo was not very surprised. There was only a wrong name, not a wrong nickname. Isn't the nickname Fool Sword spread because the Sword King looks like a fool? Su Mo was not surprised that he could do such a thing, but won't it take several days for this guy to come here? With the power of steel protection, Sword King Tony should not be crushed into a cookie by the huge water pressure of the deep sea. However, steel protection not only gives the user extremely strong defense, it will also increase the weight of the user, as heavy as a steel pier. In this case, Sword King Tony can hardly swim. It is estimated that he can only walk here on the seabed, even if he doesn't get lost. The landing place is also near the port. It will take at least 2 or 3 days to walk from the seabed to Sardinia. Su Mo is not an impatient person, but this guy is too slow. Chapter 172, he has made up his mind that when the King of Swords comes, he must teach him how to behave. According to Sir Andre's report, the location where the King of Swords jumped out of the plane is not far from here. We should be able to arrive here within 2 days. Erica deduced based on the existing information. Good. Su Mo nodded. If that guy doesn't arrive within 2 days, I will bury him directly in the center of the earth. Even the God Slayer would probably have to shed a layer of skin if he wanted to break free from the center of the earth. This shouldn't be too much of a treatment for someone who's been late for so long, right? Erica on the side had cold sweat on her forehead. She's 05, who had witnessed Su Mo's god-killing process with her own eyes, didn't think it was just a joke. Su Mo, who can easily kill even the god of disobedience, if he really wants to deal with other god killers. I'm afraid it's really possible to stuff the King of Swords into the center of the earth. I will urge Sir Andre to catch the King of Swords as soon as possible. Although she had always criticized the King of Swords, a god killer, she did not want her lord to be notorious for suppressing his own people from the very beginning. So, no matter what, she still hoped that the idiot King of Swords would arrive in time. After discovering that I still need to wait, Su Mo was bored and read the magic book in his hand for a while. After getting a general understanding of the magic in this world, he closed his eyes, prepare to go to the foggy space and see if others have gained anything. After arriving in the foggy space, the god killer Su Mo is already familiar with the world. Immediately walked towards the square. After crossing the last layer of fog, he immediately saw 2 figures talking in the center of the square. I thought he was someone I knew. I was about to go up and say hello. However, after noticing the 2 people's attire, Su Mo from the god killer world was immediately stunned. The white coat of justice seems to have the rank of general on it. Without much thinking, he recognized that this was a costume from the pirate world. On the other side, there is nothing unusual about Su Mo, a newcomer with a young appearance, in his clothing. However, the other party's rainbow-colored pupils looked very familiar. It always feels like déjà vu. Just when he was about to go say hello, the 2 newcomers also discovered Su Mo in the world of god killers. Saw the arrival of god killer Su Mo. Su Mo, who had been talking for a long time and understood the situation thoroughly. He immediately greeted god killer Su Mo, "Welcome to the foggy space, newcomer." Su Mo, who was wearing admiral's clothes, said this. I was able to stay calm the first time. It seems that the quality of the newcomers this time is very good. The young Su Mo also nodded very calmly. He seems to be very satisfied with the calm performance of the newcomer Su Mo, the god killer. Su Mo from the god killer world suddenly fell silent. What hammer are you talking about? Newcomer? I? He was just about to say hello to the 2 of them, but he was a little confused. I am the new person, even among all Su Mo. He, Tiga Su Mo, and Fairy Tale Su Mo were the first to arrive in the foggy space. He's already a veteran. I never thought that one day I would be called that. But soon he understood the situation. It must be that after the two newcomers met, they didn't meet other Su Mo. That's why I thought the two of them were the first to get here. Then, subconsciously, I thought I was a newcomer. After understanding the situation, God Killer Su Mo showed a somewhat dumbfounded expression. Get ready to explain. At this time, the other party took away the conversation. I know. You must be very nervous. Su Mo, who was dressed as a naval admiral, looked at him with an expression I could understand. I was very nervous at first, thinking this was a trap created by someone with fruit abilities. But don't panic. This foggy space is beyond the scope of the world. We can't hurt each other. Not to mention, judging from our
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.